Chapter 106. He Yao was the first to arrive at the door of the demonized psychic. The other party was a logistics warehouse inspector. Zhao Chunfeng, an ordinary man in his 30s, was nothing out of the ordinary. He had lived here for decades. He didn't seem to have anything to do with Tan Xuejia. However, the problem was that he had killed Tan Xuejia, Gu Jiazhen, and another victim. The psychic would react to the approach of another psychic. When He Yao arrived at the door, Zhao Chunfeng, who was cooking in the house, suddenly stopped. He Yao cleared her throat and knocked on the door. "Hello, is anyone home from the property management office?" Even if the neighborhood was old, there was a property management office. However, it was useless and was basically just a decoration. He Yao had no choice but to pretend to be the property management office. Of course, Zhao Chunfeng didn't believe her. The house wasn't big and the kitchen door was facing the door. He could lock onto the door at a glance. He slowly put down the pot in his hand without making a sound. He Yao continued to knock on the door. "Hello, Mr. Zhao. Are you home? Your neighbor said that he saw you coming home. You haven't paid the water bill for this month." When she came, she had at least read the basic information and knew the rhythm of Zhao Chunfeng's daily life. Zhao Chunfeng still didn't say anything. His footsteps were slowly moving towards the bedroom. He Yao could only control iron, which was metal. Her hearing was normal, and she couldn't see the scene in the house. Seeing that Zhao Chunfeng didn't open the door, she knew that he probably realized that something was wrong. As an ordinary person, his awareness of vigilance was too strong. This was obviously abnormal. He Yao frowned and raised her hand slightly. The metal door handle on the anti-theft door turned with a click, and the door was instantly opened. He Yao kicked the door open and entered. Zhao Chunfeng entered the bedroom and immediately closed the door. He Yao walked over and opened her hand in the air. Bang! The metal door handle opened. Zhao Chunfeng and He Yao instantly came face to face. She saw this ordinary-looking man's body sink into the ground and disappear on the spot. The other party looked at her in disbelief. He Yao immediately said to the others through the headset, "He's sneaking downstairs. Yuxia, Chaoikai, wait on the first floor. He can't go through the enclosed space directly. He will definitely escape from the first floor." The house was old, and there was no basement. The entire floor below was made of concrete. It was impossible for Zhao Chunfeng to travel through such a confined space. Otherwise, he would be too heaven-defying. His ability was probably to pass through objects for a short period of time, which was why he was able to pass through walls. Of course, there was the possibility that there was a basement in this kind of building. He Yao ran downstairs as fast as she could. There was no elevator in this building, so she could only run down the stairs. When Yuxia and the others received the news, they went to block both sides. The building was divided into 4 corners. Zhao Chunfeng could go anywhere. Hua Yinming and Yi Shuadai decided to split up and run in 2 different directions. However, the building wasn't small. When they were guarding it, there were residents watching them. At this time, they definitely couldn't use their powers. Otherwise, they would be on Weibo's hot search list. While the few of them were standing guard, Yuxia pressed on the watch on his wrist. The dial of the watch popped up and a network opened up. A small green grid was the network world and a small red was shuttling through it. Yuxia said in a low voice, "He is on the 3rd floor. He did not come down." Chapter 107. He Yao stopped on the 3rd floor and asked, "Which house?" Yuxia glanced at the house. "The one facing the north, the one with the best situation. There's no one inside." This kind of house had 6 households on 1 floor and was very big. If Zhao Chunfeng decided to hide, it would take some time. He Yao asked Yuxia, "Can you attack his brain through the wall?" Yuxia said, "No, I can't do that." He admitted it directly, but it was the truth. If it was that strong, Zhao Chunfeng would have been forced out. He Yao whispered, "Shuadai, control the plants to attack him and force him out." Ishuadai whispered, "It's a little troublesome. There's an old lady beside me, everyone." The old lady looked at Ishuadai curiously. "You don't live here, do you?" Ishuadai laughed. "Yes, I came here to play." He Yao frowned. "It's okay. She can't see. Just let her think that you're crazy." Ishuadai. The captain's words were too heartless. Yes, when she controlled the plants to attack Zhao Chunfeng from inside the house, No one would be able to see her. They would only see her waving her hands like a crazy person. But since boss said so, there was nothing she could do. Ishuadai's face turned serious. She waved her hand, and the plants grew from where she wanted them to, which was Zhao Chuanfeng's room. Although her plants were not very useful, they were far away. She could control the height of a 3-story building. Yuxia said, "He's in the room at the end of the 3rd floor, by the window of the bedroom. He's in the south." Ishuadai. "Okay, I got it." Zhao Chunfeng was hiding in a room. Before he could figure out who had come to capture him, he saw a green vine suddenly grow out of the wall of the room. A crack appeared on the wall, and the green vine grew to 2 meters in an instant. With a piercing sound, it danced and whipped towards him in an instant. Zhao Chunfeng broke out in cold sweat. He did not know what this thing was. He subconsciously went through the wall and fell down the stairs. The green vine retracted into the wall, but there were already traces of growth. The wall was drilled open, and it was obvious that it was not caused by normal damage. It would be hard for the person who cleaned it up. Ishuadai said, "I think he ran away." Yuxia continued, "He fell to the 1st floor. Head east. He is preparing to run." Chao Ikai said in a low voice, "I'm here." Hiao said, "Shuadai, continue to block him. Don't let him change direction. Yinming, go support her." Hua Yinming had just separated from Ishuadai. Hearing the order, he ran towards Ishuadai. This building was located in the middle, separated by flowers and plants. It would only take Hua Yinming a few seconds to run over. When the old lady saw Ishuadai, she kept waving her hands. "Daughter, what are you doing?" Ishuadai, "I'm practicing my dance, Grandma. I thought you were greeting someone upstairs." Hua Yiming ran over and stood beside Ishuadai. He grabbed her arm and closed his eyes. Ishuadai's ability was enhanced, and the vines could grow to 4 to 5 meters in an instant. However, he encountered a thorny problem. The 1st floor was occupied. Ishuadai didn't dare to make too much noise. She controlled a rattan to pass through the corridor outside. Zhao Chunfeng just came out and bumped into the rattan. He broke out in cold sweat and hurriedly changed direction. He was already on the 1st floor. He couldn't go down underground and he couldn't fly up. He could only go through the wall. Chapter 108. Yuxia's spirit rose. "He's coming for me." He wanted to see what this demonized psychic could do. Zhao Chunfeng was a demonized psychic and a murderer. Now that he was forced into a corner, he had a violent impulse. He had been very careful when killing people, but he didn't expect to provoke such a strange person. When he first discovered his special ability, he thought he had a fortuitous encounter and that he was the only one. However, the moment he discovered Yao, he knew that he was wrong. He wasn't the only one with a special ability in this world. Moreover, the sudden appearance of the vines wasn't a normal phenomenon. He could only pass through objects. When he thought of this, his face turned ugly. Because he was being chased, he looked like a cornered dog jumping over a wall. He simply steeled his heart. When he passed through a family, he saw that the people inside were eating. When the family saw him pass through the wall, they were stunned. The whole house was filled with screams. Zhao Chunfeng rushed into the kitchen, took a kitchen knife, and passed through the wall. This time, he changed direction and went in Ishuadai's direction. When he was upstairs, he saw a little girl behind the building. She was dressed delicately and didn't look like she was from here. It seemed like she came with that girl. Yuxia's expression froze for a moment. "Ishuadai, he's going for you." Ishuadai had used her ability repeatedly and was a little tired. She let out an ah. Hua Yiming had a bad premonition. His face was solemn. "Captain, there are civilians outside. Shuadai's ability is overloaded." Hiao immediately said, "I'm already down. Be careful." The next second, Zhao Chunfeng, who was holding a kitchen knife, came out of the wall with a ferocious expression. Ishuadai hadn't experienced many missions. It was her first time seeing a demonized psychic rushing at her with a kitchen knife. She was a little stunned. Hua Yinming's pupils shrank. He grabbed Ishuadai and retreated. Then, Zhao Chunfeng saw the old lady next to Ishuadai. His target was clear. He immediately rushed towards the old lady. When the old lady saw him holding a kitchen knife, she was also shocked. She screamed, "Aya, Aya!" Her legs trembled, and she couldn't run anymore. Hua Yiming reached out to grab the old granny. Ishuadai reached out to stop Zhao Chunfeng with her vines, but blood gushed out from her nose. The moment the vines grew wildly, Zhao Chunfeng had already run to the edge of the building. It was as if he had stepped on a minefield. He screamed, and the kitchen knife fell to the ground. Then, he curled up. The back of his hand, which was the first to come into contact with the edge, seemed to have been scalded by something. Hot steam rose from his body. At that moment, Ishuadai and Hua Yiming saw something shocking. The dense red threads seemed to extend from the sky and were pulled by a huge butterfly in midair. They locked the building behind Zhao Chunfeng, including Zhao Chunfeng, inside. Just now, he had touched the edge of the red line. This scene only lasted for an instant. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. Before they could describe the shock in their hearts, very light footsteps came from behind them. Ishuadai and Hua Yiming turned their heads. Xiao Jin was standing there, smiling faintly. Her body was cold and delicate, as if it was illuminated by the moonlight. Her skin was so white that it glowed. She stood there with Qing Qian, who was uninvolved. Chapter 109. At that moment, Ishuadai and Hua Yiming felt an indescribable shock. It was as if they had seen a light at that moment. Yes, no one in this world could shine. At that moment, Xiao Jin's body gave them this illusion. "Are you guys okay?" He Yao, Yu Xie, and Chao Ikai ran over. They looked at Zhao Chunfeng, who was howling in pain on the ground with strange emotions. The old lady next to him was paralyzed on the ground in shock. Hua Yiming quickly reacted and went to help her up. He Yao saw Xiao Jin and immediately asked, "Why are you here?" Xiao Jin smiled innocently. "I told you. I'm here to watch the show." She acted as if everything in front of her had nothing to do with her. He Yao was suspicious. Ishuadai and Hua Yiming also couldn't tell if what they saw was an illusion. The scene of the butterfly pulling the red thread was too shocking. It only lasted for a second. Ishuadai and Hua Yiming didn't know if their eyes were playing tricks on them. They could only remain silent. Xiao Jin didn't do anything special. They didn't know if it was Xiao Jin who did it. In just one move, Zhao Chunfeng suddenly fell into pain. What was Xiao Jin's ability? They were a little confused. Yu Xie walked over and added fuel to the fire. He attacked Zhao Chunfeng's brain. Zhao Chunfeng's brain felt like it was being pierced by thousands of needles. He fell into a deeper level of pain. He screamed and fainted. Their actions had already attracted the attention of the people in the community. Fortunately, many people had moved away because of the demolition. However, Zhao Chunfeng had walked out of a family's room just now, and they had clearly seen him. He Yao had to call someone to clean up the mess. Chao Ikai pulled Zhao Chunfeng up as if he was dragging an animal. Zhao Chunfeng had killed several people. Even if they handed him over to the spirit team, he wouldn't be able to live. They had to answer to the public. Ishuadai collapsed due to exhaustion and was caught by He Yao. She had a nosebleed, but other than that, she was fine. He Yao said to Xiao Jin, "We're bringing Zhao Chunfeng back. Do you want to send us back?" Xiao Jin smiled and shook his head. He Yao nodded. She paid attention to Xiao Jin's actions and didn't notice anything unusual. They brought Zhao Chunfeng back. The others would take care of the rest. He Yao asked Xiao Jin to leave early to avoid attracting the attention of the team members. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain. Xiao Jin nodded and left. A wisp of black qi lingering on her fingertip. She had set up an array, so she did not need to come into direct contact with Zhao Chunfeng. She had also taken the spirit seed. The Zhao Chunfeng that he would bring back later was just an ordinary person. He's dead. For demonized psychic masters like them who had been discovered, only death awaited them when they were brought back. Not long after Xiao Jin left, Zhao Chunfeng, who had been brought to the car, woke up. He looked at the strange men and women who were holding him and said with a painful expression, "There are always people in this world who deserve to die. God gave me the ability to take revenge." He Yao and the others glanced at him. Yu Xie said coldly, "You should believe in the law and the police." "The law?" Zhao Chunfeng laughed hoarsely. "If it didn't happen to you, how can you judge whether I'm right or wrong?" Unfortunately, no one answered him. Chapter 110. When he got home, Mu Qiji didn't rest. He looked at the clock on the wall. It said 11 o'clock, and it was indeed 11 o'clock. However, he seemed to be working in the living room. When he saw Xiao Jin, he didn't say anything and went back to his room. He seemed a little angry, but this was not within Xiao Jin's consideration. She went back to her room. Zhao Chuanfeng's demonized spiritual thoughts turned into a wisp of gas and went into the Mu family's villa again. She knew when she saw Tan Shuejia's black aura. Some things in this world were interconnected. If Tan Shuejia didn't court death, she wouldn't have died so quickly. She had to pay back the life debt she owed. If Xiao Jin didn't appear, this case would take another month to solve. She smiled. The next thing would probably be the Feng family's business. He suspected her quickly, but she didn't know if he had the ability to see through her. No spiritual seed? When they tested again, He Yao and the others found that there was no spiritual seed in Zhao Chuanfeng's body. She couldn't help but frown and ask Yi Shuadai. When Xiao Jin suddenly appeared, did she get close to Zhao Chunfeng? Yi Shuadai shook her head. Hua Yiming also said with certainty, she was behind us. She didn't get close to Zhao Chunfeng at all. He didn't know if what he saw was an illusion. Hua Yiming hesitated and didn't say it out loud. She didn't get close to him? He Yao also fell into a complicated mystery. At present, they were sure that Xiao Jin had the ability to foresee. It was already unbelievable for a spiritual psyche master to have such an ability. It was impossible for her to have other abilities. If she could seize other people's spiritual thoughts, it would be fine. But without direct contact, Xiao Jin could seize other people's spiritual thoughts out of thin air? It was impossible. He Yao had seen so many spiritual psyche masters and read so much information, but she had never heard of a spiritual psyche master with dual abilities. Besides, what was the use of Xiao Jin taking the demonized spiritual seed? But she said herself that she needed the demonized spiritual seed. He Yao recalled that she had once said that rather than taking back the spirit group headquarters, she would rather give it to her. Could it be that there was someone in the spirit group headquarters who knew how to use the demonized spirit seed? That was a matter of the headquarters, and they had no right to interfere. Yuxia saw He Yao's expression and sneered. We saw him going through walls with our own eyes. Now that we don't have the demonized spirit seed, how are we going to explain ourselves? The spirit group would know about this matter and would send people to bring Zhao Chunfeng back. He Yao had yet to resolve the previous matter, and now that another one had appeared, the spirit group would definitely pursue this matter. Hua Yiming said, "What can we say? We can only tell them the truth. The disappearance of the spirit seed is not something we can control. It has nothing to do with us." Even if he suspected Xiao Jin, did he have any evidence? There was no evidence that Xiao Jin had taken away the demonic spirit seed. At that time, it was the spirit group that had to worry about it, not them. Yuxia glanced at Hua Yiming. He knew very well that this group of people didn't welcome him after he arrived. There were many things that they didn't tell him before, including the matter with Xiao Jin. She suddenly appeared and left, and this group of people didn't even give her an explanation. He Yao looked at Yuxia and said to the others, Ikai is right. Just tell us the truth. It's up to the headquarters how to investigate. Everyone replied, yes. Chapter 111. When Zhao Chunfeng was brought back, he was first interrogated. Although he was a demonized spiritual reader, there was always a reason for demonization. He Yao and the others needed to record the reason. Now that Zhao Chunfeng had lost his spiritual seed, he would most likely be handed over to the police. Zhao Chunfeng was locked up in the special monitoring room of their team. Hua Yiming went to interrogate him. Why did you kill innocent people? Innocent? When Zhao Chunfeng heard that Hua Yiming had come to interrogate him, a mocking sneer appeared on his face. If you investigate the information of those women, you should know that they are not innocent. Hua Yiming lowered his eyes. I know, but they did not break the law. That is not a reason for you to take revenge. So my parents died in vain. Zhao Chunfeng grabbed the iron door of the interrogation room and approached Hua Yiming. His face was twisted. They are innocent. So you take human lives as a joke? My parents were just street vendors. They did not provoke them, but they were beaten to death by the people they called. And then? They are the culprits, but nothing happened to them. What do you want me to do? Hua Yinming's expression was calm as he listened quietly to Zhao Chuanfeng's secret past. Tan Xuejia, Gu Jiazhen, and another girl knew each other. They graduated from the same vocational college. At that time, because of their beauty, they had many suitors. Zhao Chuanfeng's parents were street vendors. On a peaceful night, they had a conflict with Tan Xuejia's group. It was just a stain on a piece of clothing. The couple had apologized properly but was insulted. In their agitation, they retorted without thinking. At that time, Tan Xuejia's suitors fought with the couple in order to stand up for Tan Xuejia. At that time, the indifference was terrifying. Not only did Tan Xuejia enjoy the feeling of having hundreds of followers, but she did not seem to think it was wrong when she saw the couple gradually lose their breath under the attacks of the suitors. Later, in the hospital, the wife died of serious injuries. Zhao Chuanfeng's father could not take the blow and died soon after. The attackers were sentenced, but they were all underage. Tan Xuejia and the rest did not do anything. They only watched and criticized. After that, they dropped out of school and disappeared for decades. It took Zhao Chunfeng a long time to find out the truth about his parents' deaths. To him, learning about his parents' death while studying in a faraway place was simply a nightmare for him. When I saw her that day, they even grabbed a girl and threw her to the side of the road. The smile on Zhao Chuanfeng's face was filled with sarcasm and loathing. Can you expect a group of beasts to become humans when they grow up? I just wanted to avenge my parents. What did I do wrong? Of course, it was wrong for me to kill them, but I don't think it was wrong for me to kill them. I was caught, and this is my responsibility. I don't care what I have to bear, but you can't say that I did something wrong. Hua Yinming quietly recorded all of this and sighed in his heart. Then, he asked a key question. When did your ability appear? At this moment, Zhao Chunfeng knew that he couldn't escape, so he simply confessed, the night I found their tracks, I tracked them down for many years before I found out that they were now in the capital. That night was the first time I saw them. When I went back, I accidentally found out that my body could pass through objects. Chapter 112. He had been too excited at the time. His mind was filled with thoughts of killing. At first, he thought that God was helping him, so he was the only special one. Of course, the first thing he did was to take revenge. Then, he thought of other things. When Tan Xuejia and the others were killed one by one, he didn't expect to be caught so quickly. Then, he found that there was a group of people with extraordinary abilities like him. He knew that he wasn't the only lucky one. This world was fair. If someone used this ability to do something wrong, there would naturally be someone to correct it. Although he was a little annoyed, when he thought about how his parents' death had been avenged, he felt happy and wouldn't worry so much. Hua Yinming was a little silent. The case had to be handed over to the police for trial. It wasn't something they could manage. Zhao Chuanfeng's ability appeared too quickly and disappeared too abruptly. Generally, there would always be a buffer period for a psychic's ability to appear. He seemed to have reacted very quickly. Perhaps the thought of killing someone was too strong. Where did the psychic's ability come from? This had been a mystery since ancient times. It wasn't something they could explore now. They only needed to know that there were only a few people with abilities. It might be lucky, or it might be a disaster. Xiao Jin woke up early in the morning. Only Mu Qiji was downstairs. She walked down and asked very naturally, Qiji, where are Qilian and Qichu? At that time, Mu Qiji's hand that was holding the knife and fork paused. After a long while, he seemed to have overcome himself and slowly replied, they didn't come back last night. They said they had something to do. Xiao Jin was a little surprised. They didn't come back last night after Feifei and Jinming left? This is really bad. Qiji, you and Jinming have to discipline them. Mu Qiji, you're the one who should be disciplined the most. He was a calm man and couldn't lower himself to the same level as a little girl. Then, until breakfast, the two of them were speechless. Xiao Jin finished eating and got up. She smiled and said goodbye to Mu Qiji. For Xiao Jin, going to class was a good way to kill time. So much so that the day passed very quickly in her eyes. However, today was different from the past. As soon as she got into the car, she realized that the driver was Muzilian. You go home after school every day. Don't you have any goals in life? The first thing Muzilian said when he saw her was to ridicule her. Xiao Jin smiled and said, like you, who didn't go home for a whole night and got beaten up by Fei Fei and Jinming? Muzillion. Bullshit. Dad and Mom never hit people, but he would make him kneel. After saying this, he was still a little worried. Big brother never talks too much. You have to be a person who doesn't talk too much. When Mom and Dad come back and ask you, just say that we go home every day, okay? Besides, do you know why I didn't go back last night? He rolled his eyes. Come with me. Xiao Jin tilted her head and thought for a moment. Okay. Muzillion snorted. Look at your character. People who don't know will think that I'm going to sell you. Don't worry, no one wants you. Although he said that, he drove his sports car and took Xiao Jin to a place. It was a relatively hidden clubhouse. He took Xiao Jin into a luxurious private room. As soon as they entered, they saw a bunch of people kneeling, their faces unrecognizable. Muzillion nodded at them. Look, these bastards. Are they the ones who tricked you into taking drugs that night? Are they all? Chapter 113. Xiao Jin saw a group of people kneeling in the room. 5 people. There were many people that night. Xiao Jin's memory was vague, but seeing these people, her memory became clear. Xiao Jin still remembered how she was tricked into going in that night. At first, she just went in to have fun. When she saw so many strange men, she was a little scared. Even if Xiao Jin had a bad reputation in the past 6 months, it was just an accident. No matter how bad she was, she wouldn't be completely depraved. When she met Tan Shuejia, she was gradually brainwashing her and taking her to relax. This was just an opportunity. No matter what, Xiao Jin's real consciousness would return. That night, Tan Shuejia forced her to drink glass after glass. She couldn't hold her liquor and was already drunk. Her arm was still a little cold and tingling. Someone injected something into her wrist, and she instinctively felt scared. She groggily found an excuse to escape. Tan Shuejia and the others didn't want to let her go. At that time, there were several playboys. Their purpose was obvious. However, when they escaped from the bar, Tan Shuejia and the others encountered the patrolling armed police as soon as they came out. They didn't know what happened during that period of time, but they were very strict. Tan Shuejia and the others didn't want to cause any trouble. Moreover, Xiao Jin had already escaped, so they were too lazy to care about her and left her outside. In fact, it was reasonable to say that she couldn't escape. After all, she had been injected with drugs. It was conceivable that she would suffer more serious abuse. Maybe it was just a little bit of fate. She returned home in a daze. Halfway through, she woke up because of the drug addiction. At that time, she realized what had happened. A young girl only had panic. She was frightened at first. Coupled with the drug addiction and what had happened to her, she chose to commit suicide in fear and despair. In this position, it was hard to say what the Mu family did wrong. Xiao Fei raised her for 20 years and had never wronged her. The house she lived in was bought by Mu Junming. It was natural that she was not allowed to go back to the Mu family. After all, she was not Xiao Fei's biological daughter. In the past, she was just a kind consciousness. Now, she was a kind consciousness. Seeing the people kneeling on the floor in the private room, she actually smiled. The young masters were beaten black and blue. Their usual arrogance was gone. When they saw Xiao Jin, they all cried like grandsons. Miss Xiao, I'm sorry. It's our fault. We didn't know you were young Master Mu's sister. We're really sorry. We didn't do it on purpose. That Tengai instigated us. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. The few of them wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves. All of them looked at Xiao Jin, wishing they could kowtow to her and beg for mercy. Muzillion was a little impatient. He stretched out his leg and kicked one of them to the ground. You still have the nerve to blame it on a dead person. You guys have no sense of propriety. You just casually injected drugs into people? That person howled in pain. His body was already injured, and now he was in so much pain that his entire body trembled. Xiao Jin suddenly looked at Muzillion and said, Tan Shuejia told me that you asked her to play with me? Who? Mu Chilian was stunned, then suddenly reacted, fuck, she's fucking crazy. How could we do such a thing? Xiao Jin shook her head. I didn't believe it. Muzillion realized something was wrong. You didn't really believe it at that time, did you? Chapter 114. Xiao Jin didn't say anything. In fact, it didn't matter if she had been wronged in the past or not. After all, it was her fault. Now, she would take revenge on those who deserved it. However, she didn't expect Muzillion and the others to help her. Young people nowadays were really complicated. They didn't call her Tan Xuejia, but they didn't like Xiao Jin. Otherwise, Xiao Fei would have brought Xiao Jin back. Muzillion saw Xiao Jin's expression, and his face immediately darkened. Upon closer inspection, there was a flicker in his eyes. He was guilty. Yes, when Xiao Fei came back, he said that he wanted Xiao Jin to come back. His opinion was the most important. At that time, he didn't know so much. His mother hadn't seen anyone for 20 years. When they were born, they didn't even have an impression of their mother. They hadn't enjoyed their mother's love for 20 years. All the love was given to a sister who wasn't related to them by blood. Naturally, he had a strong opinion. However, he couldn't do anything too outrageous. They also knew that Xiao Fei didn't bring back Xiao Jin and bought a house in the capital to raise Xiao Jin. They also knew that when they visited him often, didn't they also turn a blind eye to it? His brother didn't necessarily have the same thoughts as him, but he also cared about his feelings and didn't suggest bringing Xiao Jin back. After that, Xiao Fei nagged them every day. It was natural that he was upset. Later, when he found out about Xiao Jin's accident, he also had some doubts in his heart. When he returned home and saw Xiao Jin's appearance, he only felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. There were only 3 brothers in the Mu family. They didn't have a sister. Although their mother loved them dearly, they were all grown-ups and had the basic ability to distinguish between right and wrong. It was their grandfather's fault that their mother left home. It wasn't worthwhile to put the blame on a girl who didn't know anything. However, now that Xiao Jin said something, Muzillion's mind was about to explode. They asked Tan Xuejia to bring Xiao Jin to play? In other words, were they to blame for Xiao Jin's suicide? This was a serious matter. Xiao Jin thought about it carefully. I was too naive back then. She couldn't always put the blame on others. At that time, Xiao Jin actually wanted to get the approval of the Mu family. Tan Xuejia said that her brothers invited her to play with her, so she believed it. Otherwise, how could Xiao Jin hang out with someone like Tan Xuejia? In short, he had suffered a loss due to his lack of scheming. Then, when Xiao Jin awakened and received the entire story, a complete chain of logic was formed. Well, if it wasn't for the fact that she didn't see the death aura on Muzillion and Muzichu, she would have realized that something was wrong. She could use her ability to know other people's fate, but it was the hardest to calculate her own fate. The entire private room was dead silent. If Muzillion hadn't brought her here today, he wouldn't have known that he had taken such a big blame. No wonder she didn't like them and wouldn't even call them brother. Oh, it was mainly because her brain wasn't very good. Mu Chilian hated the people in front of him even more. He kicked 2 more people. It's all because of these bastards. They were smart. After hearing that the Mu family had a daughter for no reason, they found out about Xiao Jin's identity. They were so shocked that they changed the surveillance cameras. They wouldn't have waited until now to find out. Those people were crying and screaming, and now they were beaten up badly. Xiao Jin glanced at them. You don't have to do this. The death aura on her body was so strong. If they were tainted by her karma, their family would be in big trouble. If Muzillion got into trouble because of beating them up, there was no need to do this. Chapter 115. The other party had some power too. Now that something had happened and their family was in trouble, it would be troublesome for them to work together to target the Mu family. Muzillion thought that she couldn't bear to see these people and turned to look at her. He said indignantly, "They made you take drugs and you think you're going to let it go just like that? You're really a saint." Xiao Jin, one of the people on the ground, was indeed angry from the kick. Mu, this is our fault, but don't go overboard. Your sister is fine now. Don't think that the Lan family is afraid of you. If you say she's fine, then she's fine. Now, she has to go to the hospital twice a month for checkups. Even her brain is damaged. You tell me if she's fine or not. Muzillion was angry and vented his anger on them. Come and hit me if you're not convinced, you bastards. He was used to being wild outside since he was young. He was the little prince of the nightclub and had brute strength. Without his lackeys, These young masters who were drunk every day were no match for him in a fight. Moreover, Mizuchu was outside too. One of them couldn't take the kick anymore. He suddenly stood up, picked up a wine bottle, and threw it at Muzilian. It looked like he wanted to smash Muzilian open. Seeing that his blood was boiling, the others were also agitated. They stood up and wanted to beat Muzilian up. Muzilian wasn't afraid at all. He dodged that person's wine bottle and instantly got into a fight with them. Xiao Jin stood at the side of the private room like an audience. With a bang, the door of the private room was kicked open. Mizuchu walked in with a cold face. He frowned and said, "She's still here. Why are you guys fighting again?" Although he said that, he didn't hesitate to kick people with his long legs. While Muzilian attracted the fire, he quickly went to Xiao Jin and pushed him out. He said coldly, "Wait outside." Xiao Jin. Oh. Xiao Jin kindly closed the door for them. The room was filled with screams. After the door was closed, the world was silent. Xiao Jin stood at the door and unexpectedly bumped into a few people. The leader was dressed in a black suit. He looked like a human, but his eyes were dull and gloomy. Even when they met his eyes, it was as if some cold-blooded animal had crawled over them. It was slippery and cold, giving people goosebumps. He had a cigarette in his mouth, and a group of people followed behind him. Xiao Jin's private room was not far from the elevator. When the other party came out of the elevator, he saw Xiao Jin standing at the door and stopped. The man's gaze landed on Xiao Jin. The few people behind him had fearful and respectful expressions. When they saw him stop, they didn't dare say anything. They just followed his gaze and looked over in surprise. Xiao Jin was very calm. He even recognized the man at a glance. He should be the person he saw when he ate with Song Yanqing the other day. He was a young man with a tough life. He didn't know which rich young master he was. He couldn't see through him at a glance and couldn't be bothered to calculate for the time being. The man stared at him, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. The smoke surged up, making his three-dimensional facial features a little blurry. His dark and gloomy eyes swept across Xiao Jin wantonly. Then, he revealed a slight sneer and strode away with large strides. Xiao Jin thought to herself that there were indeed quite a number of young people with mental problems these days. Chapter 116. After a while, the door of the private room opened. Mizuchu walked out first. Not surprisingly, Xiao Jin recognized them at a glance. In fact, Mizuchu's cold aura was far from his hot-tempered brother. The moment the door was opened, the smell of blood seemed to come out. It was impossible for there to be no blood at all. Mizuchu was not hot-blooded after the fight just now. He was still cold. "Qi Lian shouldn't have brought you here." Xiao Jin smiled. "Thank you for helping me vent my anger." Mizuchu seemed a little surprised. His eyes slowly moved away from her face. "No need," Xiao Jin said again. "I won't tell Feifei that you fought." Mizuchu. Muzilian came out of the door and cursed. "Fuck. A bunch of bastards. How dare they provoke me when they don't have the ability?" When he saw Xiao Jin, he deliberately said fiercely, "I'll send you back quickly. If you don't go back after school, Big Brother will ask at home." It would not be good if this bunch of bastards came and saw Xiao Jin here. Since they had fought so hard, they would definitely deal with some things later. Xiao Jin probably knew what they would encounter, but he just smiled faintly. Okay. Muzilian and Mizuchu were not really fearless. When the car was still on the road, Muzilian received a call from Mu Zhenming, who was far away in Sakura Island. "What did you do?" Unexpectedly, Mu Zhenming's voice was very calm. Even if he knew what his son had done, he did not seem to blame him. Xiao Jin heard it loud and clear. "So what if you hit her? Why did you bring her there? She is a little girl and has never experienced these things. What if she is traumatized?" When Muzilian answered the phone, he kept peeking at Xiao Jin from the rearview mirror. Even a fool knew that this call was related to him. At this moment, he said, "It's fine. I think she's quite strong." Mu Zhenming. Before hanging up the phone, he scolded again. "Don't you know how to act appropriately? Don't you know how to find a place with no one around?" Obviously, he had some opinions about his troublesome son causing trouble for him in the country and preventing him from having a good vacation. After hanging up, Muzilian said to Mizuchu, who was driving, "Brother, they called Dad." Hmm. Mizuchu snorted and said casually, "We'll talk about it when we get back." When they arrived home, Muchiji was sitting on the sofa and reading a notebook. Upon seeing them return, he rubbed his glabella and asked sternly, "What did you do?" Obviously, he knew what had happened. After all, Mu Zhiming wasn't at home. If anything happened, he would definitely call his elder brother. Muchiji looked at Xiao Jin, who was standing behind him, and said, "Xiao Jin, go back to your room." Xiao Jin didn't have any objections. However, when he walked to the front, he suddenly said earnestly, "Chiji, they are still children. They don't know any better. Just teach them a lesson. Don't hit or scold them." He was like a doting elder. The three Mu brothers, Xiao Jin knew that Mu Chiji would at most teach the two brothers a lesson and wouldn't do anything to them. Thus, he walked into the house with relief. She calculated that those people would probably cause a few days of obstruction to the Mu family after they complained. However, it would only be harassment. After a few days, they wouldn't have the chance to harass the Mu family anymore. Chapter 117. After going upstairs, Xiao Jin went to the bathroom to fill the tub with water. She needed to take a bath. The poison in her body had not completely disappeared, but it had been suppressed in the deepest part of her body by her power. After taking a good bath today, her body would be completely healed. After a while, she changed her clothes and lay in the bathtub that was already filled with water. The bathtub was steaming hot, but the moment she entered, it instantly turned cold. A faint aura of death emitted from her body and dyed the water in the bathtub. The water suddenly became bone-chilling, but she sat down without changing her expression as if she did not feel it. She closed her eyes and immersed her entire body in the water, including her head. She was completely surrounded by the cold water and seemed to be silent. After about 10 minutes, she suddenly straightened up. The water poured down from her white, jade-like body, and she was already soaked. She wiped her face and felt that she was in a much better state than before. The water had completely turned into ice water, and if it was an ordinary person, they would be frozen half to death just by being close to it. She clicked her tongue. The time was getting closer and closer, and she felt more threatened. It seemed that she had to go to Song Yanqing to get the aura of death. Anyway, it was almost time. After changing into a bathrobe and coming out of the bathtub, she heard the discussion about her downstairs like whispers. The three brothers of the Mu family had been discussing her, and those words sounded calm, but there was a faint hint of concern. Of course, there were also doubts. How did the poison in her body disappear? This was also troubling the Mu family. Could it be that Xiao Jin was so talented that he did not get addicted to drugs at all? She slowly curled her lips, and the beeping sounds on the computer sounded like crazy. She walked over and saw that there was a commotion at her fortune-telling shop. Anonymous buyer, hello, I want to have my fortune told. This time, the other party was not Lin Si, but Xiao Jin felt that the other party was introduced by Lin Si. Anonymous buyer, I don't know which one I should choose. Customer service today is for you. Today, choose your life package. The other party was silent for a long time before typing again. Anonymous buyer, how can you be sure that I want to have my life read? Today, kiss kiss, do you want to count? Anonymous buyer, to be honest, the customer service's attitude wasn't very good. On the other end of the phone, Zhao Roland's expression suddenly became a little bad. Lin Si, who was next to her, also heard their conversation and hurriedly said, Sister, don't take it to heart. That's how the master talks. He's really efficacious. You've seen our chat history. Why are you still hesitating? Just tell her what you want to know. Zhao Roland was indeed a relative of the Lin family. However, they were not related by blood. Zhao Roland was her godmother's daughter. Her godmother and her mother had been very close since they were young, but she had always lived abroad and rarely came back. However, when the two families met occasionally, they were also very close. This time, Zhao Roland and her mother had returned to the country for a visit. Lin Si was very happy to see her sister. In addition, she knew that she was going to get married soon and knew a little about her future brother-in-law. To be honest, Lin Si was not very optimistic. Although the Zhao family lived abroad, Zhao Roland's mother believed in the fortune-telling skills in China. Lin Si urged Zhao Rulan to have her fortune told. It was a good thing to be able to bring business to the master. Chapter 118. Zhao Rulan's family background was not bad. She did not care about 599 yuan. Seeing that the other party asked her to choose a life package, she was a little hesitant. To be honest, even if she saw the chat history, a girl like her who had received a Western education from a young age did not believe it. However, she could not persuade Lin Si. In addition, she was indeed a little curious, so she still ordered the life package. After placing the order, the customer service was very fast. Today, name, date of birth. Zhao Rulan was still a little hesitant about posting her information online. However, the other party quickly sent another sentence. Today, Chinese name. Zhao Rulan's body trembled when she saw this sentence. Lin Si also said, "Look, I told you that this master is super awesome." Zhao Rulan was a foreigner. Her name was usually in English. She would only use the name Zhao Rulan when she returned to China. However, since she was in China now, there was no reason for the other party to specifically point this out. It could only mean that she knew that Zhao Rulan was Chinese. She knew about her general information through a phone? Zhao Rulan did not believe it. She can see my background information, right? Lin Si said, "Sister, are you stupid? You're using my alternate account, okay?" Zhao Rulan, "Oh, this was Lin Si's cat treasure account." Thinking of this, Zhao Rulan's heart skipped a beat. She still reported her name and date of birth. There was no reply from the customer service for about a minute. Lin Si said, "Since you're calculating life, you must take a long time." Zhao Rulan did not believe in such things. "Although she's calculating my life, I don't believe that she can calculate anything for 600 yuan. It was not that her mother had not found a fortune teller before. Those high prices that could easily reach hundreds of thousands or millions could not convince her, let alone this kind of fortune teller." Unexpectedly, the customer service suddenly replied, "Today, don't get married." The cold words made Zhao Rulan feel cold from head to toe. She was indeed about to get married. Her husband's family background was not as good as hers. He was just an overseas student whose family had gathered all their resources to support him. However, he was good-looking and was very gentle and considerate to her. He even had common topics to talk about with her. Zhao Rulan thought that he was her true love. Even if her family objected and looked down on her husband's family background, she still argued for it and expressed that her husband's future was not bad. He would at least be an elite in the future and would not be inferior to her. She could not look down on him just because of his family background. His mother had once sought out a fortune teller, and the fortune teller had also said that this marriage might not be a peaceful one and had advised against marriage. At that time, she was extremely rebellious. She didn't believe in her mother's words, and her heart was rebellious. Now that 2 years had passed, her family had agreed, and her marriage had begun to be arranged. In the end, she found an online fortune teller, and it was the same answer. Moreover, he didn't even have the slightest hint of modesty. He directly asked her not to get married. Zhao Rulan's face immediately darkened. "Is something big going to happen just because I got married? Even my mother's fortune teller wasn't so sure. He didn't want to read my life, but he just told me not to get married. What's going on?" 600 yuan was too easy to earn. Lin Si Liao didn't think so at all. Instead, he admired the master even more. "She only knows your name and date of birth. She knows that you are going to get married, and she knows what will happen after you get married. Now she is telling you not to get married. Don't you think it's really scary?" Chapter 119. Generally, if a master wanted to tell a fortune, he would at least know what the fortune teller was looking for. For example, marriage. She had to tell the other party that she was about to get married before she could start to calculate her marriage. This shop didn't ask anything, but it seemed to know everything. When Zhao Rulan saw the words "don't get married," it was as if the incident from 2 years ago had happened again. She shook her head and didn't want to believe Lin Si's words at all. She's just a blind cat running into a dead mouse. Looking at my age, she should know that I should get married. Lin Si said, "Then who knows that you're really about to get married? Why don't you try to ask why?" Zhao Rulan frowned and typed 3 words unhappily. "Why?" Today, I don't think you'll want to know too much. Zhao Rulan was so angry that she laughed. She paid 600 yuan. Was this the answer she got? Anonymous buyer. What if I have to know? Today, family broken up. His cold words were like a sharp sword stabbing into Zhao Rulan's heart. What nonsense is she talking about? What nonsense is she talking about? Zhao Rulan was so angry that her whole body trembled. My family will be broken up after I get married. What does she mean? What does she mean? Is she cursing me? Lindsay was also a little dumbfounded. Although she also didn't like her future brother-in-law, it didn't have to be like this, right? That brother-in-law of hers looked like an honest person. How did he end up with a broken family? Xiaolon. What's wrong? Zhao Rulan's fiancé, Wei Dixuan, who was about to marry her, walked over. His handsome face was tender and sweet. What's wrong? Zhao Rulan saw him and calmed down. She couldn't let Wei Dixuan know that she had found a fortune-teller. Otherwise, wouldn't he not believe in this marriage? What would Wei Dixuan think then? Zhao Rulan immediately shook her head. It's nothing. I just saw some news and was angry. Wei Dixuan immediately said, What news made you so angry? There's no need to. Calm down. He rubbed Zhao Rulan's head and smiled at Lin Si. Then, he said, Xiaolon, don't be angry. I'll make you a cup of flower tea. Zhao Rulan hurriedly nodded her head. After Wei Dixuan left, she turned to Lin Si and said, Look at your brother-in-law. He's such an understanding person. How could a fortune-teller say such words? Is this family ruined because of our marriage, or because of your brother-in-law? This is too much. Lin Si, does being considerate guarantee a happy marriage? Although Lin Si felt that the result of this calculation was a little scary, she was actually convinced in her heart. Hu Wei's matter was deeply rooted in her heart. The master had saved her life, and that was a fact. However, when she saw Zhao Rulan's expression, she was too embarrassed to say anything. This result was probably too much of a shock for her. From her point of view, it was indeed hard for her to accept. But thinking about it carefully, there was no need for the master to curse her, right? Zhao Rulan was so angry that she took out her phone and sent a message to Qiao Jin. Anonymous buyer. You're too irresponsible as a fortune-teller. Do you know what this result means? How can you say it so casually and irresponsibly? Are you going to say that you can help me change my luck and make me pay more? Aren't you afraid of losing your conscience by saying such things? She was so angry that she felt like she was going to explode. Chapter 120. Qiao Jin saw her reply and slowly curled his lips. This was to be expected. When someone could not accept their fate, they would use a thorny shell to attack others. Whether she believed it or not was up to others. It was not something she could control. However, it did not mean that she was a gentle person. Today, I don't have a conscience. I will do what I have to do and tell you the result according to your expectations. Today, you are here for fortune-telling. You should know what the result is. You don't owe me, and I don't owe you. You pay, and I will give you an answer. Today, you have the freedom to get married or not. Zhao Rulan was trembling with anger at Qiao Jin's attitude. Lin Si's eyes almost popped out when she saw the chat. She quickly comforted Zhao Rulan. Sister, don't be rash. It's just a misunderstanding. It's just a misunderstanding. Isn't this kind of person just saying things without a conscience for money? Zhao Rulan spoke without thinking. I don't believe it. I want to report her. I can't let this kind of harmful seller survive on this kind of platform. What era is it now? Lin Si panicked. Sister. She looked at Zhao Rulan and said, She's not wrong. I was the one who asked you to do the fortune-telling. We should have expected the results. You said she's a liar, but she did save my life and only took a few hundred yuan from me. Why didn't she cheat me of my money? You think that she is a liar. It's just that the result is too scary and you don't want to believe it. You can pretend that this didn't happen. I didn't ask you to do the fortune-telling. I will compensate you for the 600 yuan. Zhao Rulan was furious. You make it sound so easy. She didn't say that your family will be ruined. Lin Si also retorted. Since you think that what she said is false, why do you still care about this? Zhao Rulan. She looked at Lin Si and glared at her. She seemed to be in disbelief at her stubbornness. Lindsay was also afraid in her heart. If Xiaojin's divination was true, Zhao Rulan's family would be ruined once she got married. Then, if she sat by and did nothing, it was not what a younger sister should do. Even if it was for the sake of her godmother, she could not let such a tragedy happen to her family. However, her godsister didn't believe her no matter what. Lindsay knew that she couldn't explain it clearly here. She already had an inexplicable dislike for her brother-in-law. At this moment, she was actually a bit suspicious in her heart. The master said that the family was ruined because of marriage. Then, 80% of the problem was this brother-in-law. Could it be that there was something strange that they didn't know about? Their quarrel had attracted the attention of others. Zhao Rulan knew that she couldn't persuade Lindsay. After a while, she returned the phone to Lindsay and looked at her with disappointment. "You've been possessed by the devil. You're so young, but you believe in these things." Lindsay wanted to use her words to refute her. "You weren't the one who almost died." Death had brushed past her. If she hadn't done the fortune-telling that day, how would she have suspected Hu Wei? The female corpse that had died tragically might have been her. Lindsay said, "Yes, sister. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you to do the fortune-telling today." After saying that, she walked to the side and sent a message to Xiao Jin with her own account. "Missing you is not as good as before. Master, I'm sorry. Please don't be angry. I was the one who recommended my sister. You said that her family was ruined because of marriage. Is it really that serious?" Chapter 121. Xiao Jin saw Lindsay's message and had a good impression of this little girl. She liked tactful people who could seize the opportunity and not let it go. Lindsay believed in her unswervingly. She could change many things. These things were unimaginable to ordinary people. "Today, I won't be angry. This kind of thing is very normal. A person's life can't be perfect." She should have some expectations when she came to fortune-telling. She might have thought of all kinds of answers, but it wasn't what she expected when she said it out loud. It was normal to resist or even not believe it at all. "Today, don't bother. You're asking for trouble." Lindsay's heart turned cold when she saw this sentence. It was obvious that the master didn't want her to interfere. It was most likely a very dangerous matter. She had just been through the gates of hell and was scared out of her wits. However, she thought that Zhao Rulan was her sister, and she didn't have a biological sister. Her mother treated Zhao Rulan as her biological daughter, and the two families were very close. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and ask her. "Missing is better than past. Master, can't you tell me the reason? What's the problem after marriage?" "Today? No." Lin thought for a moment and sighed. She was just a little girl and was about to take the college entrance examination. The pressure was huge to think about these things. She could only do her last bit of strength. "Missing is better than past. Please, master. My sister's family is quite good. I don't want to see their family end up like this. My mother will definitely be sad to death. Is there really no chance to save them? Even a little hint would do. Can I buy it with money? Since the master opened a shop, he must need money, right?" Although she said that she would buy it with money, her attitude was quite sincere. Xiao Jin admired this girl. Of course, there was a way to save her. It was quite simple. Just don't let her get married. However, who would care about this kind of thing? There were other ways to try, but Xiao Jin didn't intend to say it now. Fortune-telling was like this. If she believed it, she believed it. If she didn't, then forget it. She wouldn't do anything to prove herself. Today, in a few days, if she could save her, she wouldn't put herself in danger. She would definitely not do such a thing if she did a good deed and ended up being blamed on herself. She only replied with this sentence, at least giving Lindsay a little hope. There was still a month before Zhao Rulan's wedding. After hearing this, Lindsay had at least something to think about during this period of time. Of course, she also knew that she couldn't rely on others for this kind of thing. She planned to ask her mother at night to find out what kind of person her brother-in-law was and what kind of complicated situation his family was in. Xiao Jin turned off his computer after replying to Lindsay's message. The doorbell rang. She went over to open the door, and the maid politely asked, "Miss, it's time for dinner." Xiao Jin nodded. "I'll be right down." She went over to change her clothes and went downstairs. The three Mu brothers were sitting there. Mu Qiji sat in the main seat while the twins sat beside him. Xiao Jin sat opposite the twins. As soon as she sat down, Mu Qiji said coldly, "After dinner, we'll have a family meeting. Mom and Dad will be there too." Xiao Jin said thoughtfully, "They're back?" Mu Qiji, "Turn on the video call." Xiao Jin, "Oh, it seemed that this family meeting was most likely targeted at her." Chapter 122. After dinner, the servants cleared away the bowls. Xiao Jin sat on a single-seater sofa with Mu Qiji sitting above him. He sat alone on a long sofa with his long legs crossed elegantly. At this moment, he was looking at Xiao Jin's college results from last month. From the way his eyebrows were furrowed, it was obvious how dissatisfied he was. Xiao Jin didn't think there was anything to see. The twins sat across from him, looking a little solemn. After a while, Mu Qiji turned on his phone and operated something. A WeChat video call interface appeared on the big TV in the living room. Xiao Fei picked up the phone. Behind her was the damp smell of the waves. Looking at the children at home, her smile widened. "Aya, Qiji, Qichu, Qilian, Jean, how are you? Have you eaten?" Mu Qiji, "When I turned on the video call just now, I already told you that it's after dinner. Mom, you don't have to ask too much." Xiao Fei, "Isn't this to say hello to you? I care about you." She looked a little sad. Mu Zhenming looked at the children at home from the side and said with a serious expression, "Is everyone here?" Muzillian couldn't help but complain. "Dad, look at our family. Who else is missing?" Mu Zhenming didn't look embarrassed at all. He just snorted and acted like he usually did at the company. "Okay, then let's start the family meeting. Qiji, the main point of the meeting is..." Before he could finish, Xiao Fei interrupted him. "Aya, don't be so serious. This isn't your company. You can just say whatever you want. You'll make the children very nervous. It's not a big deal." Mu Zhenming, "It's not a big deal? It's time to educate them." Mu Qiji glanced at the couple in the video call, and then slowly said, "Today's meeting is mainly about Xiao Jin." At the mention of her name, Xiao Jin sat up a little straighter. Mu Qiji's expression was solemn. "Xiao Jin is now a member of our family, and also our sister. I hope you don't take the past to heart. What Qilian and Qichu did was neither right nor wrong. Father and I will take care of the Lan family's follow-up matters." Xiao Fei, "Okay." Mu Qiji paused for a moment before continuing. "In the future, you have to be careful when you do things. Things like today must never happen again. Especially, don't bring Xiao Jin to places that he shouldn't go. Muzillian, especially you." Xiao Fei, "Yes." Muzillian was a little unwilling. "I just want her to go and see if it's those bastards," Mu Qiji said. "You have to be polite. Don't forget that you're a member of the Mu family." Muzillian, "Is it those bastards?" Mu Qiji's gaze turned to Xiao Jin. "Xiao Jin, what do you think?" Xiao Jin paused for a moment. "What do I need to think?" Mu Qiji looked at her and then reminded her. "Those bastards." Mu Qiji was asking her how she wanted to deal with those bastards. It seemed that the Mu family didn't intend to let this matter go so easily. Therefore, they didn't think that it was a big problem for Muzichu and Muzillian to fight. It was just that it would be a little troublesome to deal with those families in the future. Xiao Jin's injury, however, couldn't be let go just like that. Xiao Jin's lips curled up slightly. "You guys can make the decision." Her karma was the best revenge. Naturally, there was no need for him to add fuel to the fire. Chapter 123. Muzillian couldn't help but say, "See, I was right." She was bullied and didn't know how to retaliate. No wonder she was bullied. "Xiao Jin," Xiao Fei protested in the video. "Qilian, your sister is kind-hearted." Muzillian, "The Holy Mother is alive." Xiao Fei, "You." Mu Zhenming interrupted their argument with a dark face. "All right, let's talk about this later. If there's nothing else to say, I'll hang up first." Mu Qiji, "There's one more important point. Xiao Jin has problems with her studies. I've seen it. Her professional grades are average, and her foundation grades are even worse. She needs a teacher to tutor her." Xiao Jin immediately said, "No, I don't really need it." Someone can tutor me. If there was a teacher to help her in class, she would rather use Song Yanqing's notes. At least, after reading his notes recently, it was really effective. She simply didn't like people being too close to her. Of course, after saying this, Mu Qiji and the others all turned to look at her. Who? Muzillion said suspiciously. Your classmate in school? Xiao Jin was silent for a moment, then said directly, Song Yanqing gave me notes. Who? Muzillion thought he was hallucinating at that moment. Mu Qiji and Muzichu were a little shocked, as were Qiao Fei and Mu Jiming in the video. Qiao Fei immediately said in a high voice, Who? Who are you talking about? Xiao Jin's expression was calm. It's Song Yanqing, the young master of the Song family. I have a collaboration with him. He helped me with my studies, so I don't need additional guidance from a teacher. Muzillion's eyes almost popped out. How do you know Song Yanqing? Didn't she hear that Xiao Jin had cursed the young master of the Song family? Song Yanqing had almost met with an accident not long ago. It was said that he was gone, but he had miraculously woken up a few minutes later. Muzichu and Muzillion had even visited him. At that time, Song Yanqing had asked Xiao Jin about it. However, he naturally expressed his doubts about the sudden addition of a daughter to the Mu family. Basically, he did not say anything. The two of them did not expect that Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin actually knew each other in private. Xiao Fei seemed to want to say something, but Mu Jiming gently pushed her arm. He called the Mu family that night. Although he did not ask in detail, it seemed that the matter of the Song family's young master had something to do with Xiao Jin. The Song family had kept it a secret, and they didn't even tell him, the uncle and name. He was puzzled, but since the Song family didn't cause any trouble, it meant that nothing had happened. Xiao Fei's actions could easily cause the three young people to misunderstand. Xiao Jin simply said, Of course we know each other. The others looked at each other doubtfully. Even if Song Yanqing lived in seclusion, there were rumors about his character. Although he was polite, they had never heard that he had a deep relationship with any young peers. If Xiao Jin knew Song Yanqing, wouldn't the news have been spread out long ago? Muzillion felt as if he had heard something dreamy. Song Yanqing also took notes for you. Don't tease me. Do you know which school he graduated from? He had begun to work for his father. How could he help Xiao Jin take notes in college? Xiao Jin said, I don't know, and I'm too lazy to ask. As I said, we are in a cooperative relationship. Muzillion continued to ask, How can you cooperate with Song Yanqing? No one in their family could trust him. Chapter 124. If Xiao Jin cooperated with Song Yanqing, it would be the biggest joke in the world. One was the most respected person in the Song family. The Mu family was still far inferior to the Song family. It was just that Mu Jiming's reputation was not bad, and he had some business dealings with the Song family. Hence, among his peers, Mu Qilian and Mu Qichu could still see Song Yanqing and speak to him. But if it was Xiao Jin, wouldn't the difference be too great? Not to mention that Xiao Jin had cursed Song Yanqing. They felt that there was a conspiracy, but they couldn't figure it out. Xiao Jin pursed her lips and said, It's not convenient to say now. This is a secret. When she said this, the three of them looked a little strange. In the video, Mu Jiming waved his hand and settled the family meeting. Okay, she has her secrets. Don't dig into the root of it. It's fine as long as nothing happens. His wish was so humble. As long as the Song family didn't cause trouble, everything was fine. He had a headache about this adopted daughter who wasn't related by blood. Mu Qiji's eyes were deep in thought. He stared at Xiao Jin for a while and nodded. Okay, today's family meeting will end here. The twins still had something to ask, but the family meeting was over. Muzichu went back to his room first. Muzillion looked at Xiao Jin suspiciously before leaving. Mu Qiji looked at Xiao Jin and said in a low voice, I'll wait for the day when you're willing to speak. There were some things that Xiao Jin would say. Xiao Jin nodded slowly. Mu Qiji also nodded. Rest early. Good night. After saying that, he went back to his bedroom. This family was really interesting. Xiao Jin thought of this and smiled slightly. Speak of the devil. Just as they were discussing Song Yanqing's message came in. Song Yanqing, do you need to come and find me again? It just so happens that I have a new set of notes for you. I just found some of the research I did when I was in college. Some of them are related to your professional courses. I hope they will be helpful to you. It's Jean Jinyo. Okay, I'll come over tomorrow. Thank you. It was also time to collect Song Yanqing's death aura. The next morning, Xiao Jin set off for the Song family. However, she didn't take the chauffeur's car. She simply took a taxi and went there. When she arrived at the mountainside of the Song family's mansion, she informed Song Yanqing. Only then did he know that she had arrived. After waiting for a while, I drove down to pick her up. When he saw Xiao Jin, Dan smiled respectfully. Miss Xiao, I should have gone to pick you up. I'm really sorry for making you come in person. Ever since the incident with Song Yanqing, Dan admired Xiao Jin very much. He knew that she was mysterious and capable. However, as a bodyguard, he knew very well that he would never say what he shouldn't say. Xiao Jin just smiled faintly and said, "You're too polite. I said that I would come. It's just a matter of taking a taxi." She got into Dan's car and asked, "Your young master is at home now, right?" Dan nodded quickly. "Yes, young master knew that you were coming today. He even asked the kitchen to prepare a meal." For the time being, Xiao Jin did not answer his question of whether he wanted to eat here. Instead, she suddenly said, "You'd better do what you promised me." Dan's smile froze. "Miss Xiao, what I promised?" Xiao Jin smiled. "Jump off the balcony." Dan. Chapter 125. Jumping off the balcony was just Dan's nonsense. It could also be called mockery. He didn't expect retribution to come. Really jump? Dan stuttered. He couldn't believe that Xiao Jin was so serious. Xiao Jin sighed and seemed a little helpless. "You said it. I didn't force you to say it." Dan. He wasn't the kind of person who couldn't understand. Hearing this, he said with grief and indignation, "I'll jump." Jumping down from the young master's place was the swimming pool, so it was just diving. Wasn't it just jumping off the balcony? Since Miss Xiao asked him to jump, he would jump. These were the words that he had said himself. As a man, once a word was spoken, it was hard to take it back. Not to mention a person like him. Xiao Jin nodded and smiled without saying anything. The car drove to the mansion halfway up the mountain and directly into the courtyard. The last time he came, he only attended the banquet and briefly looked around. However, through the foaming array of the Song family's mansion, he had a simple understanding of the layout here. Naturally, the foaming array hadn't been removed, but because of the major changes, the red dot inside had begun to dim. Xiao Jin wouldn't help the Song family remove the foaming array now. When that person couldn't stand it and showed up, he would know what was going on. Dan led Xiao Jin directly to Song Yanqing's courtyard. Along the way, they saw many servants of the Song family, but no one was curious about Xiao Jin's appearance. It wasn't that they weren't curious, but the rules of the Song family were here. When guests came, they couldn't look left and right. Stepping into Song Yanqing's courtyard, Xiao Jin saw Song Yanqing's back. He was wearing a beige sweater and slim trousers today, looking as elegant as usual. He was bending down and feeding a fat cat with tiger stripes. The sun shone on him, as if he was covered with a layer of warm golden light. He didn't expect Song Yanqing to raise a cat. Most importantly, it wasn't an expensive breed. It just looked like an ordinary fat cat. At that moment, Song Yanqing was feeding it food. Fat cat raised its paws, as if trying to snatch the food from Song Yanqing's hands. Sensing movement, Song Yanqing turned around and straightened up. He looked at Xiao Jin and smiled faintly. "Xiao Jin?" Xiao Jin stepped forward curiously. "Is this your cat?" When the cat saw the stranger approaching, it took a big step back cautiously. The cat stared at Xiao Jin, as if it would pounce on her if she made any strange movements. "Yes." Song Yanqing gently waved his hand. "Ding dang, this is a guest?" "Ding dang?" Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows. He felt that this was not a name that Song Yanqing could come up with. Song Yanqing smiled and said, "My sister picked this cat up and gave it to me. She also named it." Xiao Jin said, "Oh." When the two of them were talking, Zai, who was behind, silently looked at the two of them talking happily. In the end, he made a decision and bitterly went to the balcony. Below the balcony was a large swimming pool. He wouldn't die if he jumped. Song Yanqing noticed his movements and called out, Azai, go get someone to make a cup of flower tea for Miss Chiao. No rush. Xiao Jin pursed his lips into a faint smile. Under Song Yanqing's puzzled gaze, he said, he has to fulfill a promise he made to me first. Song Yanqing was a little surprised. Then he asked with some interest, what did Azai promise you? Chapter 126. Xiao Jin raised his chin. You'll know soon. Abai quickly went up to the second floor of Song Yanqing's house, where he often sat in his bedroom on the balcony. The transparent glass partition faced the swimming pool downstairs. Abai's figure appeared there. He looked at Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing with a bitter expression. Young master, I owe Miss Chiao a promise. I said that if I asked Miss Chiao to save you, I would jump off the balcony. Song Yanqing's memory was amazing. He quickly remembered that when Xiao Jin came over, Abai had indeed said such a joke. He was a little amused. That's your promise? Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows. How is it not a promise? He said it himself. I didn't force him to say it. A real man jumped off the balcony on his own accord. Fulfilling a promise is a real man. Abai nodded. Miss Chiao is right. Song Yanqing's eyes swept the distance from the balcony to the swimming pool. There was a hint of a smile in his voice. Then jump. Abai. He looked downstairs. He was still wearing his suit. He couldn't be fully prepared to take off his clothes and jump down. Thus, he took a deep breath and jumped up from the balcony. Splash. He jumped into the pool, creating a huge splash. This sudden action scared Ding Dang into crazily meowing. Perhaps she didn't know what was wrong with this human. Abai's entire body sank into the pool. Not long after, he emerged from the pool. His entire body was soaked, and his hair was drooping down, dripping water. It looked a little funny. He wiped his face and opened his eyes to look at Xiao Jin. Miss Chiao, is my jump okay? Xiao Jin. If I say no, you have to jump again? Abai. Song Yanqing couldn't help but smile. Go and change your clothes. Also, get someone to prepare a pot of flower tea for Miss Chiao. Yes, young master. Adan hurriedly got out of the pool and hurriedly changed his clothes. After this episode, Song Yanqing looked at Xiao Jin. The notes are in my room. If you're not in a hurry, why don't you leave after lunch? I've already asked someone to prepare the meal. He was obviously prepared. Xiao Jin had nothing to do, and Song Yanqing had told her to prepare the meal, so she nodded. Just in time. Seeing that Xiao Jin had agreed, Song Yanqing thought for a moment and said, I have something to tell you. He led Xiao Jin into the room. The room on the first floor was the living room. Xiao Jin had been here before. Song Yanqing went upstairs and took a few books down. It was a thick stack. Xiao Jin looked at the stack of books with an unreadable expression. My grades are good. I don't need any extra tutoring. Seeing her expression, Song Yanqing smiled and said, It's not just for your professional classes. Most of them are for the basic classes. There are records of what I've learned before. They should be helpful to you. Xiao Jin. Song Yanqing put the books in an exquisite box and looked at Xiao Jin. Why would such an amazing child have difficulties with her studies? Xiao Jin stared at Song Yanqing. After a while, she said slowly, No one is perfect in this world. Everyone was good at different things. She was good at formations, but it didn't mean that everything was not challenging for her. She wasn't human. Perhaps such a god didn't even exist. Song Yanqing nodded. I can see that. Xiao Jin. Chapter 127. Ding Dang also scurried into the room. It seemed to be very curious about a stranger in the house. When Song Yanqing walked over, it jumped into Song Yanqing's embrace, sticking to its owner. Only that pair of cat eyes were still looking at Xiao Jin. At this moment, it was no longer vigilant, but it couldn't be said to have a good impression of him. This kind of man holding a cat was like a beautiful painting. His slender fingers stroked the back of Ding Dong's neck and rubbed it, saying, Ding Dang was raised in the backyard a while ago because of its body and was not released. It just so happened that it came back today. It has a rather timid personality and will be on guard against strangers. If you look at it twice, it will be like family. Xiao Jin stared at Ding Dang for 2 seconds, to the point that Ding Dang forgot about Song Yanqing's embrace and shrunk even more. It didn't know that its special treatment should be envied by many. After a while, Xiaojin smiled. Where was it picked up? Song Yanqing raised his head, as if he was a bit surprised. It was picked up by my big sister on the streets. When she picked up Ding Dang, its mother had already breathed her last. It was weakly crying out. My big sister pitted it and picked it up to raise it for a while. Later on, she gave it to me on my birthday. He didn't particularly like animals, but after raising Ding Dang by his side for so long, it had a different meaning. In reality, there were very few people or animals close to him. Even if it was a cat or a dog, his family was afraid that they would scratch him and that there would be serious consequences. At that time, if Ding Dang hadn't confirmed that it wouldn't scratch people, Song Suyu definitely wouldn't have given it to his little brother. Her heart also ached. Her little brother had been alone for too long. It wasn't that he didn't want to interact with others, but that the family didn't allow it. Whoever he had a deep relationship with, the Song family would even investigate the other party's 18 generations of ancestors. Being friends with Song Yanqing was also a huge pressure. This cat was given to Song Yanqing by Song Suyu to relieve his boredom. If Xiaojin hadn't displayed a special ability, then with her awkward status in the Mu family and the previous events, Song Shirin definitely wouldn't have allowed her to interact with Song Yanqing. Seeing her staring at Ding Dang, Song Yanqing brought the cat forward. Do you want a hug? Meow 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 meow. Ding Dang saw that its master was about to give it to Xiaojin and hurriedly grabbed Song Yanqing's sweater, showing its unwillingness. Xiaojin sneered. I don't like furry ones. Oh? He only gave a gentle smile, then bent his body and placed Ding Dang down. Ding Dang landed on the ground and glanced at Xiaojin, then, jumped up the stairs. Back, his gaze circled around Xiaojin's wrist. Xiaojin's body was recovering very quickly. The scar on his wrist was now only a thin pink scar. If one didn't look carefully, they probably wouldn't notice it. As long as they investigated Xiaojin's suicide, it would be easy to find out. She nodded and said, almost. He had already investigated Xiaojin's matter. It was really hard to imagine that such a powerful person like her would commit suicide and take drugs. Furthermore, perhaps it was different. Her personality didn't seem to match with the previous information. Thinking of the abilities that Xiaojin had shown, he could roughly guess what it was, but he couldn't say it out loud. It was a little shocking, but he felt that nothing was impossible when it came to her. Chapter 128. The feeling this girl gave him had always been very faint. It was so faint that he had the illusion that she didn't belong to this world. He slowly stretched out his hand and spread his slender fingers. Even the skin on his hand was delicate and smooth, porcelain white and flawless. But he just looked at Xiaojin and smiled. Do you need to collect the death aura? Xiaojin looked at him and nodded slowly. But she wasn't in a hurry to stretch out her hand. She just looked at Song Yanqing and said, I want to see something from you. Song Yanqing asked, what do you want to see? Xiaojin lowered her eyes and then raised them again. There was a strange emotion in her eyes. The Rakshasa realm? The Rakshasa realm? This unfamiliar word surprised Song Yanqing. When I saved you last time, I was very curious why there were demons of the Rakshasa realm coveting you. At that time, Song Yanqing was about to die. She saw the demons of the Rakshasa realm. Generally speaking, the Rakshasa realm and the real world wouldn't have any intersection. Only the spiritual reader was the medium between the two worlds. Demons would use the evil thoughts in the spiritual reader's heart to achieve their goals. Then, they would lure the spiritual reader into becoming demons and finally retrieve the spirit seed of the demonized spiritual reader back to the Rakshasa realm. But in Xiaojin's memory, the demons of the Rakshasa realm wouldn't have direct contact with a human, let alone stay by a human's side. She had heard of a similar situation before, but demons were straightforward. If they were like this, it meant that there must be something on Song Yanqing that made them so greedy. After he died, these demons would also get great benefits. Demons? Song Yanqing blinked. His long eyelashes fluttered. From his deep eyes, there was a strong sense of doubt. Do demons still exist? But when it came to demons, he had already thought of the world he saw. If those things weren't demons, he wouldn't believe it. It's demons. At this moment, Xiao Jin's voice suddenly became a little hazy. Her voice was originally clear and ethereal, but now, with this layer of haziness, it sounded as if she was speaking from another world. She raised her hand and slowly reached for Song Yanqing's neck. His neck was long and slender, and even his prominent Adam's apple was like a work of art. Her skin was so thin that even the veins under her neck could be seen. Song Yanqing only frowned slightly. When the hands touched his neck, Xiao Jin's calm voice said, "Don't be afraid. You will see." He wasn't actually afraid, but he wasn't used to having someone so close to him. However, in just 2 seconds, he calmed down. He knew that Xiao Jin was different from the rest. He also knew that Xiao Jin wouldn't just have the shallow idea of taking advantage of him. He also wanted to see what Xiao Jin would let him see. When the hands touched his neck, they brought a slight chill. Her movements were gentle to avoid giving Song Yanqing the illusion that she wanted to strangle him. Then, her thumb slowly pressed on the prominent Adam's apple. Because of the strange feeling, Song Yanqing's Adam's apple moved up and down. She felt the obvious movement and closed her eyes. When she opened them again, Song Yanqing could clearly see the red dot flashing in her eyes. The red dot outlined a strange pattern. It was just a short moment, but it was enough to make people tremble. Something slid down his Adam's apple, bringing with it a clear chill. The surrounding heaven and earth suddenly became dim, and everything lost their original color, becoming gray and defeated. Around them, there were malevolent demons, terrifying roars, and vicious gazes looking at them. Chapter 129. This was a completely different world. It had existed in Song Yanqing's world for many years. He had always been confused as to why he was the only one who could see such a world. Of course, for so many years, although these ferocious demons had always looked at him with a covetous gaze, they had never spoken to him or done anything malicious to him. Perhaps it was impossible. This didn't seem like a normal world. Xiao Jin's compassion was reflected in Song Yanqing's pupils. He discovered that her body was actually glowing faintly. Just like what he saw that day, it was the only light in this dark world. The light was crystal clear and actually enveloped Xiao Jin, appearing incomparably holy. Unlike before, the demons today were clearly very manic. They were roaring at Xiao Jin and Song Yanqing, flapping their huge wings and roaring at the sky, but they couldn't get close to them. Xiao Jin looked at this scene and was a little surprised. They actually summoned the Rakshasa world. Those hands were still pressed on his neck, and at this moment, he could feel the softness of the girl's palms. The two of them were very close, and it was the first time in so many years that Song Yanqing had been so close to someone. Moreover, he couldn't be disgusted. He didn't like people touching him, but at this moment, he had a different feeling. He didn't reject Xiao Jin's touch. Moreover, the situation in front of him didn't allow him to think about anything else. He slowly turned his neck and looked at the resentful eyes of the demons around him. He asked softly, "What is the Rakshasa world?" Xiao Jin held his neck like this, his eyes moving around, and slowly explained, "The Rakshasa world is a world that exists like our human world. You can think of it as another world. The Rakshasa world and the human world are not connected. Demons can't come over, and we humans can't go over. But spiritual psyche masters can be connected to the Rakshasa world. The demons of the Rakshasa world lure the demonized spiritual psyche masters and take their spirit seeds to strengthen themselves. For ordinary spiritualists, they can only be inspired by the Rakshasa realm, but they can't see it. In the years that I have existed, only a few spiritual thought masters were like me, able to form a connection with the true Rakshasa world." Her gaze gradually locked onto Song Yanqing. "You are the second human I have ever seen whose soul has formed a connection with the Rakshasa realm. When something abnormal happens around you, the Rakshasa realm's demons will descend. They are there to protect you, but also to plot against you." Song Yanqing's eyes shone with a flirtatious brilliance. "You're protecting me, but you're also scheming against me?" While they were talking, a huge demon flapped its wings and appeared. It floated behind Song Yanqing. It was a few meters tall and had a ferocious face. Its facial features were similar to that of a human. The only difference was that its skin was completely black, like the bark of an old tree. It looked ferocious with its twisted roots and joints. Its eyes seemed to be scarlet. It roared at Xiao Jin from behind Song Yanqing. Song Yanqing had been here for so many years, but he had never heard the demons speak. He could only hear their roars. At this moment, he heard the roar from the demons. It was like a murmur from hell. It had the magic power to corrupt people, but it also had the power to make people fear. The voice was extremely strange. He only saw the girl in front of him slowly smile at his back. The struggle of a trapped beast. Chapter 130. She didn't say it to him, but to the thing behind him. After saying this, she slowly let go of her hand. Following her movements, the surrounding scenery returned to its original state, returning to the colors it should have. Meow meow meow. Ding Dang ran down and probably sensed something. At this moment, she tilted her head and looked at them from the side of the stairs. Her big eyes were filled with doubt. Song Yanqing only looked at Xiao Jin and said in a calm tone, "So, why did the Rakshasa world come to find me? You're different?" Xiao Jin only guessed casually, "Other than your fate being swapped, I can't see anything about you that can catch the eye of the Rakshasa world, but they won't just follow you for no reason." Xiao Jin looked at Song Yanqing, and a strong interest had already ignited in his heart. "Maybe when your fate comes back, I'll be able to know why." In her long years, there weren't many things that could arouse her interest. She had no desire for anything. Even if power and money were at her fingertips, those were too superfluous to her. Song Yanqing saw the interest in her eyes, and his heart trembled as he thought of what she had said just now. "In the years that you existed," the corner of his lips curled into a probing smile, "you give me the feeling that you've existed for a long time." Not too long. If one excluded the 10,000 years of history, Xiao Jin's real existence hadn't been long. She was the most talented array master in that era, and now it was the modern world, far from her civilized world. Even the history of mankind could only be traced back to a few thousand years ago. Something must have happened back then. With her disappearance, everything was covered up. However, the existence of spiritual reader had always existed for a long time. Song Yanqing lowered his eyes and said his thoughts. "Sometimes you give me a very contradictory feeling. You're like a powerful child, but you have a mature side. However, many things are very immature." It was like a person who didn't fit in and was slowly integrating into this world. He didn't know where this feeling came from. Xiao Jin was a little surprised. Song Yanqing was actually right in a sense. Although she had awakened now, she was indeed a soul from 10,000 years ago. She was now accepting everything in the modern world. Because her future was unfolding in this world, she had to learn to accept and get used to it. There were many things that were still being investigated, but she did indeed possess that period of civilization. She knew many things that others didn't know, and even existences that these people couldn't imagine. Thinking of this, Xiao Jin smiled faintly. "You can say that, but I'm not going to tell you why." She is very straightforward. Song Yanqing's eyebrows overflow with a gentle smile. "I think one day you will tell me." "Xiao Jin, maybe." Song Yanqing knew that Xiao Jin wouldn't say anything, so he wouldn't delve into this question. He only continued the topic from before and asked, "You said that the Rakshasa world is both protecting me and scheming against me?" Xiao Jin nodded. "The reason they protect you is to ensure that nothing happens to you. They have a plan for you. Before this plan succeeds, they have to protect you." Song Yanqing's life providence hadn't returned yet, so he didn't know what the Rakshasa world was plotting. However, the Rakshasa world couldn't come to this world. They could only use their believers, demonized spiritual readers. Chapter 131. Song Yanqing would not be in danger for the time being, and Xiao Jin would not rashly calculate his fate. Karma was actually not that binding on ordinary people. Otherwise, there would not be so many problems of scourges living for thousands of years. The existence of karma was to assist the conclusion that it was destined to be, and it should not interfere with the fate of ordinary people. Karma had given them different levels of power in order to suppress her. And under this limit, it was up to them to choose whether they were good or evil. Xiao Jin could not say whether it was good or bad. At least with her status, She would not inexplicably attack ordinary people in order to show off her superiority. Of course, she would not allow anyone to offend her. Song Yanqing's death aura was helpful to her, so she could help Song Yanqing appropriately. This was an exchange. Song Yanqing walked out with her, and he asked one last question. The Rakshasa world will not hinder you, right? Xiao Jin nodded. The Rakshasa world itself was a different world from theirs, and they did not hinder each other. Even if there were some believers, Xiao Jin would not take them seriously. She stayed at the Song family for lunch. Only she and Song Yanqing were at the dinner table. The Songs were all outside, and they all had their own things to do. If it were not for Xiao Jin coming today, Song Yanqing would probably be busy in the company. Song Yanqing ate elegantly, and Xiao Jin also ate in a refined manner. She just asked curiously, "You were not in good health in the past, so what did you do most of the time by yourself?" Song Yanqing paused for a moment and then looked at Xiao Jin. "Then I did things with my brain, such as studying and helping the family with its affairs." Xiao Jin, don't you have any friends? Song Yanqing paused for a moment. There were a few who could be considered friends, but with his status, the other party was similar to him. They had already started to help the family, and it was difficult to see them all year round. Moreover, they could not be considered bosom friends. Therefore, there was no one who could truly be a close friend. There was also Adan by his side to protect him, but Adan's status was different from his, so Adan treated him with utmost respect. From beginning to end, Song Yanqing could be considered to be alone. But at this moment, a happy smile appeared on his face. There wasn't before, but perhaps there is now. Xiao Jin's reaction wasn't slow. You mean me? Song Yanqing put down his chopsticks. If you think I'm worthy of being your friend. Hearing this, she found it interesting. Actually, I don't have any friends either. She had never had a friend before because she could see through one's fate. She had just woken up. Other than the Mu family, she did not have any friends. She said calmly and nodded seriously. We can be friends. Song Yanqing looked at her, and his eyes seemed to be able to soften the years. Okay, from now on, we are friends. Xiao Jin nodded. She didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. The old antiques from 10,000 years ago actually had some ideas, which were still a little out of touch with modern people. In her eyes, it was very natural for a man and a woman to become friends. She found Song Yanqing pleasing to the eye, so she naturally wanted to be friends with him. She didn't think much about other things, because there were some things that had never appeared in her life. Since we are friends, I'll give you a gift. Song Yanqing said this. His voice was a little higher, but it was still clear and pleasant like a stream. Adan. Chapter 132. Pei walked in from outside the door. He had a good relationship with Song Yanqing, unlike the bodyguard and the young master. However, the rules of the Song family were strict. When Song Yanqing was eating, he usually stayed outside. Today, Xiao Jin was here, so he didn't stay inside. Hearing the young master's call, he immediately came in and said respectfully, "Young master, what's the matter?" Song Yanqing said, "There is a wooden box on the desk in my bedroom. Take it down." Pei seemed to know what it was. When he heard Song Yanqing say so, he was a little surprised. However, he didn't ask anything and went to take it. Xiao Jin frowned. "What gift?" Song Yanqing smiled and said, "You should like it." Pei quickly took it down and put it on the table. Then, he went out. It was a heavy wooden box with complicated patterns painted on it. At first glance, it was expensive. Song Yanqing opened the box. Inside was a book. This book looked a little old. The packaging on the outside was exquisite. The thick leather cover was like a paper shell. On it were the words "Ancient Ruins." These words were written in an ancient style. It was a very thick book. Song Yanqing took it out and handed it to Xiao Jin. Since I learned about what my father said, I have been very curious about these things. I have been looking for news everywhere. I accidentally learned about the modern version of this ancient book from someone else. It took me a lot of effort to get it. I have probably finished reading the content inside, but I think it should be helpful to you. It records some strange things that have been passed down since ancient times. Many of them, I think, are related to the spiritual reader master. It seems to be written by a spiritual reader master. Song Yanqing continued, "The value of this book is very precious. My father said that the fortune teller also mentioned this book, but no one has found the original. I think you should take a look." Is that so? Xiao Jin wasn't very curious, but she took it. Since it was written by a spiritual reader master and it was an ancient book, it probably recorded the development of some things. Xiao Jin was indeed interested in this at the moment. She couldn't guarantee that she wouldn't get some clues about her nemesis, but at least she could see how the era of psychic sorcerers changed after they disappeared. Thinking of this, Xiao Jin looked at Song Yanqing. "This gift is very precious and I am indeed interested in it. Since you gave it to me, I'll give you a gift too." After saying this, she stretched out her finger again and pressed it on Song Yanqing's Adam's apple. However, this time, the movements were very fast, and the Rakshasa world did not appear. Song Yanqing only felt an aura enter his throat, and it was indescribably cold. "You don't have to worry about the Rakshasa realm's devils harassing you anymore. With me here, you don't have to see them for the time being." Song Yanqing was just an ordinary person, and he knew that the Rakshasa realm must have brought some trouble to his world. Looking at those ugly things every day, he probably wouldn't be in a good mood. Song Yanqing didn't expect it to be such a gift. He touched his Adam's apple and chuckled. "Thank you." Xiao Jin said, "You're welcome. You also gave me a gift." She put away the book and Song Yanqing's notes, and then left the Song family's mansion happily. Tong couldn't leave Song Yanqing, so she sent someone to send her home. She turned around and returned to the house, facing Song Yanqing with a face full of shock. "Young master, you know that many people are looking for that book, so you directly gave it to Miss Chiao. She was a bit too generous." Song Yanqing sat in the house and said, "It's not a loss. Tong." Chapter 133. Xiao Jin returned home with the book Song Yanqing gave him. It was indeed quite interesting. This book recorded the vicissitudes of life in just 100 years from the perspective of a psychic. It was about 1,000 years from now. The ancient book had been refurbished by the author. Many of the contents were strange stories and traces of the existence of other psychic. Xiao Jin found an interesting point. That was, the book mentioned a special kind of psychic. From his perspective, it was an array master. Compared to the scarcity of psychic speakers, array masters were still traceable. Obviously, the author had a strong interest in this kind of special psychic, which also made Xiao Jin understand one thing. Even 1,000 years ago, the traces of array masters began to disappear at that time. As a result, people now only had the concept that psychic was equivalent to a wizard. Array masters and psychic speakers had disappeared in the long river of history. But this was not the case. There were array masters in the Feng family, including the current situation of Song Yanqing, which was also caused by array masters. At least it proved that someone still kept a part of the secrets of array masters. The special thing about array masters was that they were not like wizards who could do whatever they wanted. Array masters needed to know the array points. In this world, there were array points at every moment and every place. This was the foundation that array masters relied on. Just like when Xiao Jin cast spells, the array points were connected, and she could achieve the effect she wanted. Of course, if you were not an array master, you could not see the array points. Feng Shui was related to array points. Some array points were naturally connected and would create a natural pattern. This was the Feng Shui pattern. Different array points had different effects. Xiao Jin slightly narrowed his eyes. He was curious if people nowadays thought that array masters were the same as them. Although they were all psychic, there were some differences between them. On the way back from the Song family, she felt that someone was following her. It was the same person from last time. She pursed her lips and smiled. She did not take it seriously. It was not until she returned home that her face changed a little. Even the originally light and peaceful smile gradually faded and became a little heavy. Her dark and bright eyes looked at the lights in the house. She smelled something unusual. It was a smell that made her extremely unhappy. When she arrived at the door, the servants in the house had already noticed her figure and quickly came out to receive her. They took away the things in her hands and said, "The young miss of the Feng family has come to our house as a guest." Xiao Jin raised his lips and smiled faintly. Isn't she already paralyzed? How many years does she have to recuperate? You're back so soon? The servant didn't know the ins and outs of the matter, but she knew that Feng Fei he had an accident. She just didn't dare to answer Qiao Jin's question rashly. Mu Zhiming and Xiao Fei were already back in the living room. Everyone was chatting happily. When they saw Qiao Jin, Xiao Fei's eyes lit up. Jin, you're back? Everyone looked at Xiao Jin. The three brothers of the Mu family were not here. There were only Qiao Jin and Mu Zhiming at home. Sitting opposite them were Feng Fei he, who had an accident not long ago and was said to be paralyzed for several years, and her parents. When Feng Fei he looked over, there was an inconspicuous resentment in the depths of her eyes, but no one else saw it. In the eyes of Qiao Jin, her beautiful face was full of hypocritical smiles at the moment. Feng Fei he's mother looked at Qiao Jin and showed a superficial friendly smile. This is Qiao Jin. You are really generous and talented. Chapter 134. These words were a bit interesting. Mu Zhiming frowned. Those who were well-informed would know about Qiao Jin's matter. At this moment, Xie Jihua's words clearly had a hidden meaning, but Xiao Fei couldn't understand it. She was silly and sweet. She really thought that others were praising her daughter. She couldn't help but say, "Fortunately, Feihe is still beautiful." She was just being modest, and Xie Jihua's expression looked a little smug. "Xiao Fei, I just casually said something, and you're panting?" His own daughter was loved by his own family. Even if Qiao Jin's appearance was not as exquisite as Feng Feihe's, Xiao Fei still felt that his daughter looked more elegant than Feng Feihe. Qiao Jin's appearance was not necessarily worse than Feng Feihe's, especially her temperament, which was transparent and superior. Feng Feihe's appearance was too exquisite. When she was expressionless, she looked like a mannequin. She only looked good on the surface. It was not good to continue. Feng Yongshi also looked at Qiao Jin with a meaningful look. Qiao Jin and our family's Feihe are classmates, right? As soon as his voice fell, Qiao Jin said faintly, "It's just the same school. I'm not familiar with it." Qiao Jin didn't give face. After saying this, she looked at Feng Feihe with interest. "I heard that Miss Feng had a serious accident and had to lie in bed for several years. Now it seems that some rumors are just rumors." As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the three members of the Feng family were a little stiff. Xie Jihua quickly said, "It's all nonsense outside. It's just a small car accident. It's not that serious." Whether it was that serious or not, they should know in their hearts. At the time, Mu Zichu went to see Feng Feihe and the Mu family. She was lying in bed and couldn't even speak. Only a few days later, she could get out of bed. Such an incredible thing. I believe that Mu Zhiming was suspicious. However, this would make Feng Feihe look really good, and no one would suspect anything else. Qiao Jin nodded and stopped talking. Feng Feihe looked at Qiao Jin and suppressed the dissatisfaction in her eyes. She smiled and said, "This time, other than thanking Uncle and Auntie for their care, I also want to formally invite Miss Qiao and your brothers to my birthday party." As she spoke, she placed her hand on the back of her mother's hand, looking haggard after recovering from an illness. "This incident has frightened my parents. Since it's my birthday, let's take this opportunity to wash away the bad luck. Also, thank you for your concern." Xiao Fei answered without hesitation, "Of course we will come to your birthday party." Feng Fei he looked at Qiao Jin with anticipation. "Miss Qiao, will you come?" Qiao Jin and Feng Fei he were not familiar with each other. Logically speaking, there was no reason for him to go. However, the Mu family and Feng Yongshi had a cooperation, so it was normal for Mu Zhiming to bring his children there. Mu Zhiming and Xiao Fei also looked at Qiao Jin. Although they all wanted to go, they had to see Qiao Jin's intention. Unexpectedly, Qiao Jin smiled and raised his lips. "Okay, I will definitely go." They came with bad intentions. The Feng family probably felt something, so they wanted to lure Qiao Jin to the Feng family. It had to be said that they had some perception. At least there were a lot of people who had a grudge against Feng Feihe. They could lock the target on her and suspect her so quickly. They still had some ability, but it was just suspicion. When they lured him to the Feng family, they would naturally know what happened in the territory of the Array Master. The Feng family was not worried about Feng Feihe, but that someone had mastered the method of borrowing luck to target the Feng family. Chapter 135. Their family itself was not doing glorious things. If they were targeted, there would be a serious backlash. The Feng family's reputation and wealth would all be gone. How could they not be afraid? The Song family could find out that something was wrong with Xiao Jin, and the Feng family would also feel it. Xiao Jin was one of their suspects. This birthday banquet was an excuse. Xiao Jin's promise made Mu Zhiming nod slightly. At least he didn't disrespect the Feng family. The Feng family was a partner. Mu Zhiming didn't want to see Xiao Jin do anything willful. Of course, even if she didn't agree, Mu Zhiming had already thought of an excuse at that moment because Xiao Jin's brain was not right. Now he didn't need to think of an excuse. At least he was relieved. Seeing that Xiao Jin agreed, Xiao Fei also said, "Of course, we will all come. Feiya, don't worry." She smiled like a naive and sweet girl who didn't know anything. Seeing that Xiao Jin agreed, Feng Fei he breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, as long as she stayed in the Mu family, she felt uncomfortable all over her body. It was as if something was peeping at her from the unseen world. It made her feel uncomfortable all over. She also had this feeling in the Feng family's main residence. It was different from the coldness of the Feng family. In the Mu family, it was pure oppression. It seemed that even her thoughts could be seen through. Since Xiao Jin agreed now, Feng Fei he didn't want to stay any longer. She excused herself that she was still not feeling well and left with her parents. After they left, Xiao Fei couldn't hide her words. She asked her husband curiously, "Didn't you say it was very serious? Now I look like I'm alive and kicking." Mu Zhiming was a little speechless about her description, but after thinking about it, he also said in a deep voice, "I'm not sure." The Feng family had always been weird. There were many rumors in the business world. Those who competed with the Feng family for business or went against them for so many years didn't end well. The key was that nothing could be seen on the surface. After so many years, it had long been noticed by others, but no one had been able to find out the reason behind it. It could only be attributed to some strange phenomenon. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they couldn't possibly think of it as some fantasy. With the Mu clan status, they were still unable to come into contact with that kind of world for the time being. Even the Song clan did not know much about it. Mu Zhiming looked at Xiao Jin. "What do you think?" "Xiao Jin, After a while, she looked a little puzzled. "Zhiming, why are you asking me such a strange thing? I'm not familiar with Feng Fei. Maybe Qi Chu didn't see it clearly." Mu Zhiming. Every time Xiao Jin called his name, Mu Zhiming was still not used to it. Xiao Fei was already used to it. She didn't want to think about anything complicated. She suddenly complained, "Will Zhiming's father come over next week?" Xiao Jin was interested in the main character of Xiao Fei and Mu Zhiming's melodramatic story. "Zhiming's father?" "Xiao Fei. Yes, he's your grandfather." Xiao Jin nodded. "Anyone who comes as a guest. You guys treat him well." Mu Zhiming. "Xiao Fei. Grandfather. Do you understand what grandfather means?" Mu Zhiming's father was full of resentment when he was pushed out of the country. If he came back and saw Xiao Jin, he would probably have high blood pressure, right? Xiao Fei suddenly felt a little worried. Seeing that Xiao Jin was about to leave, Mu Zhiming's eyes were a little strict. "Where did you go this morning?" Chapter 136. The Song Family. Xiao Jin answers directly. "I want to see Song Yanqing." Xiao Fei's eyes stare like copper bells. It's one thing to know it on the phone. It's another thing to know it now. "When did you have such a good relationship with the young master of the Song family?" Xiao Jin says naturally, "Friends." "Xiao Fei, why haven't I heard that other people are Song Yanqing's friends?" She feels that this is beyond her knowledge. She looks up at her husband for help. Mu Zhiming has a headache about Xiao Jin and the Song family. He doesn't want to ask more at all. Now he just asks casually. Seeing Xiao Jin's calm attitude, he doesn't care about her. "You should pay attention to yourself. The Song family is more mysterious than the Feng family. Song Yanqing is especially important." Now Xiao Jin is in contact with the biggest treasure of the Song family. Song Shirin doesn't think that Xiao Jin is in danger. He won't care about this kind of superfluous thing. If the Song family doesn't like it, they would have reminded the Mu family. But Xiao Fei is still scared by Xiao Jin's shocking remarks. Now the Song family acts as if nothing has happened. They even let Song Yanqing and Xiao Jin contact each other by themselves. His breadth of mind was magnanimous. Xiao Jin smiles softly and doesn't explain more to them. She goes upstairs and puts the things she brings back on the table. Song Yanqing's notes and the book. She just read it on the way. Now she sits down and reads the book back and forth while she has nothing to do in the afternoon. The compiler of the book is Zhongli Wuyo. She doesn't know whether it is a pseudonym or his real name. Xiao Jin uses the magic circle to calculate the name. Unexpectedly, he is really a psychic. He even has a bloodline that has been passed down to this day. Xiao Jin did not have any special information he needed to know for the time being, so he stopped the calculations. He had written a lot of information about magi, but there were a few array points in the book. He had obviously been pointed out by others, and there were even corresponding symbols. The corresponding areas of the array points were taken out and compared with the map. It turned out that they were all occupied by the current giant groups. Xiao Jin looked at the book thoughtfully. This should be a book that would be very useful to normal people. Many of the places mentioned in the book were treasured lands formed by natural array points. Of course, there were also places of murder. Xiao Jin was not very interested, but for a wizard to know so much about the array points of a sorcerer, what kind of guidance did he have? It was not easy to find, suppress, and make use of these places. She chuckled. At this moment, He Yao's call came. The other party sounded a little guilty. Miss Xiao, can you come out tonight? Xiao Jin looked up. Whether I come or not, the end result will be the same, so I don't want to waste my time. He Yao. She sounded a little relieved. You know? Xiao Jin said. You can tell the people around you that I won't be of any use even if I go. I won't join your organization, and I don't have the ability to predict the future like you think. Of course, I won't tell you what I am. He Yao sighed. I understand what you mean. She glanced at the person in the distance. But Miss Xiao, this matter is a little troublesome. Can you just come and meet me? Chapter 137. He Yao had been interrogated by the spirit group, and with Yu Xie's report, Xiao Jin's matter could not be kept a secret. Indeed, just as Xiao Jin said, the spirit group was helpless against Xiao Jin. They investigated Xiao Jin's information, but could not find any clues. The fact that she was a psychic was confirmed, but the ability to foresee was very tempting. Even if Xiao Jin did not want to be involved, it did not mean that no one coveted her. The headquarters sent people to investigate Xiao Jin's matter. Generally, when the spirit group found a psychic or demonized psychic, they would be dealt with. Ordinary psychic with abilities would be recruited into the group. Those who were unwilling would be monitored by the spirit group. After all, they were too much of a threat to ordinary people. Of course, very few people could endure the constant monitoring and would eventually join the spirit group. Only a few could ignore the monitoring and live like ordinary people. As for Xiao Jin, if she was unwilling to join, the Mu family would be affected. Of course, Xiao Jin did not care about this, because that kind of monitoring was too laughable for her. But when she heard He Yao's words, she hesitated for a moment and finally said slowly, Okay, then I'll come out once. She spent an entire afternoon reading this book, so she could go out and rest. When she went down, it was already dinner time. Xiao Fei was sitting at the dining table when he saw Xiao Jin coming down. He said happily, Jin, you're here on time. It's time to eat. Xiao Jin shook her head and said, I won't eat. I have something to do. Xiao Fei was surprised. What are you going to do? Xiao Jin, disco? Xiao Fei. With this sentence, Xiao Fei felt that he was going to have a heart attack. You're going to disco? Why are you? Before he could finish speaking, Xiao Jin said, I'm joking. Someone asked me out for dinner. Xiao Fei. Although Xiao Jin explained in time, Xiao Fei still didn't believe him. Who asked you out for dinner? Song Yanqing? It was no wonder that she dared to make such a guess. After all, the only friend that Xiao Jin had mentioned was Song Yanqing. Other than that, Xiao Fei couldn't think of anyone else who could directly ask Xiao Jin out. Xiao Jin. Just one person. He Yao's identity was special, so it wasn't appropriate for him to reveal it. Xiao Fei, you're talking as if you've never met a human being before. Even so, she couldn't stop Xiao Jin if he wanted to go out. She just complained. Mom went to Sakura Island, and I haven't shown you the things I brought for you. Xiao Jin smiled and said, you can show me when I'm back. I'll be back soon. Xiao Fei looked at her. Then you have to wait for a while. Your big brother is going on a business trip again. He's flying out tonight. Let your big brother send you there. Xiao Jin raised his eyebrows. At this moment, Mu Qiji also came down in a well-ironed suit. He even casually put on his tie. His movements were suave and elegant. Xiao Fei immediately said, Qiji, your sister is going out. If you're going to the airport, see if you can give her a ride. At the same time, Kong Kong's friends weren't shameful at all. Mu Qiji looked at Xiao Jin with disapproval in his eyes. Why are you going out again? Xiao Jin said concisely with a familiar excuse. Disco. Mu Qiji. Xiao Jin was very rebellious, and not just any kind of rebellious. Not long after the family meeting, she started to rebel. Chapter 138. Xiao Fei saw Mu Qiji's darkening face and hurriedly said, she's just spouting nonsense. She's just going to meet a friend. At this point, she even displayed her authority as a mother. You're not allowed to go to the disco. If you do, I'll break your legs. Xiao Jin. Coincidentally, Muzillion also rushed downstairs. Mom, I won't be eating dinner. My friend asked me out and I'm going to the disco. Xiao Fei's face turned stern when she saw that her son, who had just reprimanded Xiao Jin, had come out to undermine her. You're not allowed to go. If you do, I'll break your legs. Muzillion. He looked around and saw that Mu Qiji had not left. He felt a little guilty. However, he looked at Xiao Fei blankly. Why? I'm just going to have fun. I won't do anything rash. Mom, you know me. Xiao Fei had never interfered when he went to the disco. Mu Qiji added, in the future, no one is allowed to go to the disco. This is the family rule. If you go, I'll deduct your pocket money. Muzillion. Was he still human? This was Muzillion's weakness, not Xiao Jin's. She walked downstairs. Big brother isn't going the same way as me. I'll go by myself. Muzillion looked at Xiao Jin with bulging eyes and then asked Xiao Fei, where is she going? Before Xiao Fei could say anything, Xiao Jin said lazily, to the disco? Everyone. Muzillion looked at Xiao Jin who was striding away. Then, he looked at Xiao Fei and suddenly felt indignant. Why are you targeting me? Xiao Fei. At this moment, she felt very tired. The child had grown up. It was time for him to be rebellious. Especially Xiao Jin's rebellious period. It came later than anyone else and was stronger than anyone else. It took him some time to arrive at the place where he had agreed to meet He Yao. Since it was a meeting and he was a spiritual reader, he didn't choose a particularly crowded place. There was a shopping mall. Although it was located in the downtown area, it didn't seem to be doing very well. There were very few people in the entire shopping mall. Especially the dining area on the top floor, there were not many people there. It was very quiet, but it was very suitable for talking. When Xiao Jin walked over, he saw that He Yao was the only familiar face he had met today. The other two people were a man and a woman. It exuded a very powerful aura. They were not simple spiritual readers. What was interesting was that not only did they have an aura, but they also wore expensive branded clothes. The accessories on their wrists and necks showed that even if they were spiritual readers, they were not from ordinary families. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. They looked very close, so they should be brother and sister. He Yao saw Xiao Jin and waved at him. The two of them looked at her at the same time. At the same time, Xiao Jin felt a force invading his body. He sized it up very impolitely. She smiled lightly and did nothing. The force only invaded Xiao Jin's body for a second before it was blocked by a powerful backlash. At the same time, the girl's face turned pale. The boy glanced at Xiao Jin and noticed the change in his sister. He immediately asked in a deep voice, Painting, what's wrong? The girl shook her head and glanced at Xiao Jin. There was a trace of fear in her eyes. She only said one word to her brother silently, dangerous. The boy's expression changed. His sister was a spiritual reader. If she said that someone was dangerous, then it must be someone they couldn't deal with. He then looked at Xiao Jin. She was wearing a mini summer pineapple-patterned knee-length dress. She exuded innocence, and her face was calm. It was as if she did not feel anything. He could not tell that she was dangerous at all. Chapter 139. She looked like the daughter of a wealthy family who had gone out to play. She exuded a kind of peace that was incompatible with a spiritual reader. Xiao Jin walked in front of them and sat down without waiting for them to speak. The table was rectangular, and He Yao and the two people on the opposite side sat together, while she sat alone on the other side. She put her hand on the table and smiled. "Hello, I'm Xiao Jin." Although they knew Xiao Jin's identity, they still nodded when they saw Xiao Jin being polite. "Hello, I'm Zhongli Shiyu." The girl looked even more timid. "Hello, I'm Zhongli Painting." Xiao Jin gave her a very dangerous feeling. Only stupid people would directly provoke dangerous people. Although they came from the spirit group, Xiao Jin gave her such a dangerous feeling. She didn't dare to provoke Xiao Jin. In a way, it was quite wise. Xiao Jin heard their names and was a little surprised. The Zhongli family? She had just finished reading a book written by a member of the Zhongli family and calculated that he had descendants in the world. She didn't expect that someone from the Zhongli family would appear so coincidentally. He Yao was also a little surprised. "You know about the Zhongli family?" If spiritual readers had a history, then the Zhongli family was undoubtedly an aristocratic family with an inheritance in the world of spiritual readers. There was a particularly strange thing about the Zhongli family. Every generation that was born in their family would at least have a spiritual reader. Their family was also one of the few families that allowed ordinary people to know about spiritual readers. Therefore, the Zhongli family was quite famous in the world of spiritual readers. Xiao Jin seemed to be an outsider, but He Yao felt that Xiao Jin should know some information. Now that she even knew about the Zhongli family, she had some expectations in her heart. Xiao Jin slowly shook her head. "I don't know, I just found out." Zhongli Painting knew that Xiao Jin was in danger, but seeing that Xiao Jin's performance was very calm, she opened her eyes and asked her curiously, "Where did you find out about our Zhongli clan?" Ordinary people would not know what kind of existence the Zhongli family was. They would only think of them as an ordinary merchant family. If Xiao Jin was a spiritual reader who had suddenly appeared, then he shouldn't have known this information. "I learned of it by chance. It's not very detailed." Xiao Jin gave a simple explanation. He looked at the two of them and said, "It's not appropriate for us to talk about this matter. Why don't you say what you want to say?" Zhongli Painting and Zhongli Shiyu looked at each other. Finally, Zhongli Shiyu spoke. He took out a document from his clothes. "He Yao told us about you. So we'll get straight to the point. We were sent by the spirit group to recruit you. We want to know if your ability suddenly appeared or if it had always been there." Of course, they already knew the answer in their hearts. If it had always been there, Xiao Jin would not have committed suicide. It was obvious that after the suicide, he was stimulated and his ability appeared. Xiao Jin raised his lips. "Do I have to tell you?" Her attitude, to be honest, was not very cooperative. He Yao had always known that Xiao Jin would be difficult to deal with, but the spirit group was not an ordinary organization. If they were to clash head-on, Xiao Jin might be able to deal with one or two spiritualists, but would she be able to deal with a large group? Zhongli Shiyu knew that Xiao Jin was dangerous. He had also seen many spiritual readers like Xiao Jin who were very arrogant when they had the ability. At this moment, his expression was relatively gentle. "We just want to know some basic information. This will be good for you." Chapter 140. The benefit is that you think it's an honor to recruit me into the spirit group. The waiter came over to help Xiao Jin pour a cup of hot lemon water. Xiao Jin picked up the cup and took a sip, saying, "It's not an honor for me, it's just a hassle." Zhongli Shiyu's face was a little ugly. Generally, after knowing the existence of the spirit group, a spiritual reader would at least show a look of surprise. Moreover, after knowing that the spirit group had many spiritual readers, they would put away their contempt. Xiao Jin in front of him was not looking down on them. At least her attitude from beginning to end revealed a kind of indifference to the spirit group. Wasn't this contempt? The spirit group was originally established by his ancestors. Zhongli Shiyu could not bear to see its existence belittled. At this time, he frowned slightly and slowly said, "If you think it's troublesome, Miss Chiao, we can only tell you very clearly that if you don't choose to join, it will be more troublesome. In order to protect the safety of ordinary people, we will monitor spiritual readers like you. If you think it doesn't matter, then you cannot join the spirit group." Originally, he thought that Xiao Jin would at least feel a little offended. Unexpectedly, she shrugged indifferently. "Up to you. If you have the ability to monitor, then monitor." Zhongli Shiyu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but Zhongli Panying reached out and pulled her brother's sleeve. She was a detection spiritual reader, and her perception was also very strong. She felt that if Zhongli Shiyu continued to speak, it might anger the spiritual reader in front of him. She knew her brother's temper and only whispered, "Brother, if she doesn't want to join, then forget it." In the past, there were spiritual readers who did not join the spirit group. This society was still free. As long as the other party did not do anything that violated the rules, they had no way to force the other party. Zhongli Shiyu faintly pursed his lips. No matter why, he was a little unhappy with Xiao Jin's attitude. He knew that these two were from the Zhongli family and were naturally arrogant. Zhongli Panying was slightly better, but Zhongli Shiyu was already a core member of the spirit group headquarters at such a young age. He might be provoked by Xiao Jin's attitude. She immediately said, "If Miss Xiao doesn't mind, then let's forget about this matter." Zhongli Shiyu only looked at Xiao Jin. Joining or not is one's freedom. If Miss Xiao doesn't care about our surveillance, we naturally won't force her. However, shouldn't Miss Xiao explain that Team 3, which is team leader He Yao's team, captured 2 demonized psychic master spirit seeds that disappeared? And when these 2 things happened, you were nearby. What does this have to do with me? Xiao Jin looked incredulous. "What do you think I did?" She did it, but they couldn't find any evidence. They originally had suspicions. Now that Xiao Jin directly denied it, they couldn't continue to ask. The main thing was that this deep-rooted thought was in her mind. Xiao Jin already had the ability to predict. If she could still seize a spirit seed, then what could the spirit seed be used for? Why did it have to be a demonized psychic master? Zhongli Shiyu took a deep look at Xiao Jin. "I hope that Miss Xiao won't do anything that will hinder the safety of ordinary people. It's already not easy to maintain a peaceful situation in this society. We also won't allow anyone to destroy it." "Of course, I understand your hard work." Xiao Jin nodded. Her attitude towards every word that Zhongli Shiyu said was very indifferent. She wasn't angry, nor did she explain, "You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."